Good morning and a happy Republic Day to you, and welcome to New Day Saturday edition. This is the Republic Day edition of your show. This is your factual and propaganda-free news analysis show on Saturday mornings, right here on TV3, also on 3FM 92.7, and also on our various media platforms, including 3news.com, also on our Facebook page at TV3 News, and we are also streaming live on GhanaWeb.com. As usual, we're running from now till 9:50 when we draw conversations to a close. There's been a lot happening this week. We will be looking at a number of issues, but of course, the bust issue is topmost on our minds, and I'm sure you're keenly following this developing story about BOST, the bulk oil storage and transportation company, and the 5 million litre contaminated oil saga. Now, the minority in Parliament this week called for a probe into the new leadership of BOST, following media reports that about 5 million litres of contaminated oil had found its way onto the market. Now, the majority, on the other hand, is also calling for a full-scale investigation into BOST dating as far back as 2009, as there are emerging reports of similar incidents in the past under the previous administration. But aside the politics, I think there are real issues that should preoccupy our minds as citizens, as taxpayers, as consumers and users of petroleum products. Now, how much is the state losing from transactions involving contaminated oil? To what extent are our public safety, public security and consumer interest compromised? What at all is this contaminated oil? Are people creating the contamination for their benefit at the expense of the state? Many issues for us to look at under the context of this BOST or this developing BOST story. Indeed, another question that we need to look at is what the regulator of the downstream petroleum industry, that is the National Petroleum Authority, the NPA, what have they got to say about all of this development? The panel will be weighing in on this, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible to try to see if we can bring closure to some of these issues. Another issue that we'll be looking at is yet another bribery scandal against Parliament. Now, there have been several allegations against Parliament from different quarters. Now, notable amongst them being, we had Professor Adai, former rector of GIMPA, coming out to say some things about Parliament. Indeed, Parliament threatened to cite him for contempt, like they had done to some others. We also had Mr. Martin Amidu join in. Now, Parliament also threatened to cite him for contempt as well, but that didn't happen. Now, not too long ago, in January this year, we were hit with the Honorable Mahama Yariga bribery allegation, which, unlike previous allegations, came from inside Parliament itself. Notwithstanding persistent calls from the public for an external probe into the allegation, the Mahama Yariga allegation, Parliament shrugged that and set up its own committee, insisting that it was the master of its own rules. Not too much came from that committee's work, unfortunately, at least according to civil society's perspective. After the presentation of the committee report, that is the Joe Carter Committee report, was presented to Parliament on the 30th of March 2017. And now, barely 3 months after the Joe Carter Committee's report was made public, the second arm of government, our August House of Parliament, has been hit with yet another bribery scandal involving the Finance Subcommittee under the 6th Republic. And this time, the bribery scandal came with an admission by no means a person than the current chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Honorable James Kuche Abeji, who at the time was the chairman of the Finance Subcommittee. Now, what is intriguing about this whole thing is that the said bribe was given by a state agency, the NLA, approved by that agency's board to facilitate the passage of a law. Indeed, it was an amendment to an existing law, the National Lottery Act. Is legislation for sale now? That's what people are asking. Is the Parliament of Ghana selling legislation to the highest bidder now? We'll be interrogating this issue, as it seems Parliament consistently is being hit by some allegations, one way or the other. We'll also look at what has been announced as the leveraging of our natural resources for funding or finance. We're looking at the Chinese commitment in the sum of about 15 billion US dollars. Excuse me. Now, this the first time we heard of a loan from China was the 3 billion US dollars term loan from the Chinese Development Bank, CDB, and the government of Ghana in 2009. Now, that was a controversial arrangement, vehemently opposed by the minority at the time, who are now in government. Now, the government at the time, being the minority now, said the minority then, the government now, were jealous and threatened by the acquisition of the CDB loan because it was going to change the fortunes of Ghana significantly, securing their hold on power for a very long time. Today, about 7 years down the lane, we seem to have a situation of a same script but different cast. The new cast say they have secured perhaps some about 21 billion US dollars from China for the country's economic transformation agenda by means of a new financing model where the country's resources will be leveraged for various financial packages. The old cast, that is the NDC, the minority now, say the new cast have gone to sell Ghana, and they discount any claims of a new financial model and insist that the set 21 billion US dollars is an outright loan, which will ultimately increase the country's debt stock. Now, whether new school borrowing or old school borrowing, the citizens are concerned about the details of this arrangement. What are the details? Are we going to see a similar situation with the CDB 3 billion US dollar loan? We'll be looking at this issue into details when we come back from this break. You're watching New Day, Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching New Day Saturday edition, the Republic Day edition, and we're coming to you live from TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 on our various web pages, TV3 News on our Facebook page, TV3news.com, also on GhanaWeb.com. Let me quickly introduce our panelists and then we get straight into business. From my extreme left, we have the Honorable Obi Amwa. He is the MP for Equaplem South constituency, also the Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development. Next is Mr. Kwadwo Safwa-Poku. He is an energy expert and engages in lots of political discourse. Also is Mr. Kwame Jantwa. He is the Vice Chairperson of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. Also Deputy Commissioner at the National Development and Planning Commission, NDPC, and also a member of the Convention People's Party, CPP. Last but not least is the Honorable Edward Bauer. He is the NDC MP for Bongo constituency. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to have you here. We'll go into our conversation, but before, let me give Honorable Obi Amwa some 5 minutes to tell us new developments at the Local Government Ministry.
Thank you so much. Good morning to fellow panelists and to viewers and listeners. Thank you for the opportunity.
Right.
We are expecting, as of now, about 200 chief executives of the metros, municipalities, and districts to arrive in Accra tomorrow, Sunday, for us to begin orientation for these chief executives from Monday to take us probably the whole of next week up to Friday.
Right.
We need to bring them together to be able to at least equip them with some skills. We know the period will be short, but that's the beginning, just the basic skills, so that we can then go to them and continue with the kind of education they need to be able to run their districts.
Right.
Because as chief executives, they are in charge of security, they supervise budgeting, planning, procurement, even revenue generation, all the key things that you can think of if you're running a district. And we should not take it for granted that because maybe they have their own skills or background, they can just
they have the skill set needed
and then run the place.
Right.
So I think it's very necessary that to bring them
that
together. Beyond which, also the networking and then best practices and all those things that will impact.
Right.
And we expect that after 5 days, they'll be equipped enough to start administering the districts, except that we'll have to do more as they go along. Even in our profession, the legal profession, we always have
continuous learning.
Continuing legal education.
Yes.
So obviously, for them to end, because the program is well structured and we have very experienced experts to be able to be the resource persons, we expect them to give them enough material for them to even send along, for them to be able to even refer when they face challenges.
Great. So you said 200, but so what about the 16? Because there are 216 in
yes,
number?
I'm saying that over 200 in the sense
over
that
200.
In the sense that some are still yet to be endorsed.
Right.
After they were either reappointed or renominated or freshly appointed. The elections are still going on. As of yesterday, I think one was done in Wale, then in Suano. So we're still counting.
Okay.
We will not have the full 216 just because a few are still outstanding.
Right.
But over 200 would definitely make it for.
Okay, and I want to believe that the others eventually would also receive the same training
certainly,
when they're done.
Certainly. Once we get the chief executive in the place, that person would go through the orientation.
Okay, and then there will be new regions coming up eventually. So when that happens, would there be anything?
Well, we'll cross the bridge.
As and when we go.
Cross the bridge when we get there.
Yes. Very well. Okay. Now again, still on the new regions. What are plans, or how are plans far advanced in that regard as we move on? Just a few. Well,
regarding creation of new regions.
Yes, the creation of
it's directly under the minister for regional reorganization and development.
Okay.
They've started their fora, they're going around. We have to stick to the constitution. Eventually, if you want to create a new region, you have to go through a referendum. So they have to work towards leaving the referendum, and then a certain percentage you turn out, a certain percentage you agree that the region should be created. Right. So they are on course towards that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. We wish the DCEs
Same
and the MCEs
and good
very well as they go on to go on and do the job as we expect them to do. So yes, we go on to what has been lined up for discussion. We'll start off with the bust. Mr. Janto, you're looking at me. You want to
take a bite, small bite?
Okay, yes. Let me give you that opportunity. Yes, please.
Just on the regional, the creation of new.
That's not my focus. My focus is the orientation.
So he said yes. It's pretty much under the reorganization.
Yes.
Ministry. You know, the expectations of most of the regions that will be affected, particularly in Western region, was that in the first 6 months they were going to have that done. Today is first.
I don't expect you to be saying that.
No.
You're a member of parliament.
No, but you knew that.
The constitution.
Yes, you knew that. And
we didn't say anywhere the first 6 months.
Indeed, the president who's an experienced former legislator was the one who made this statement in Western region.
If you go through
that in the first 6 months, and if you want, I will retrieve that information for you.
Retrieve it. If you
so I will retrieve it and you will read it.
Very well.
The first 6 months.
That's fine. I mean,
today's the first of.
So you're saying the timelines they set.
I'm just trying to say that. You see, when you give a promise, and you give us targets, that these are the deliverables and the milestones.
That's fine, Honorable Bauer. That's fine. Your point is well made. Yes,
it can be a promise and a target, in the sense that when you want to do a referendum, even the gazetting alone is 6 months.
I agree with you.
So how?
I agree with you.
So he's saying that given all those facts,
things, you still went ahead.
But that's fine. Let's not. I mean,
check the manifesto.
This is not even the main items lined up, and already we have. So let's just carry on, Mr. Jantua.
It's part of the propaganda they go around saying.
But anyways, we'll move on. I think Mr. Jantua wanted to say something.
Abna, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to our viewers, and good morning to panelists. Yeah. It's a good thing that they are bringing the district chief executives for orientation and training. But it shouldn't end there. If they go back into the districts and they don't take anything from what they have been taught and they go and do what they want to do and they are found culpable, I hope the MPP will make sure that they sanction them and punish them. It's not just coming to sit in Accra and have fun and pay DMs or whatever.
They're coming to be trained.
Yes, they come to be trained. So let's hope that the training that they get, they are able to go back to the
impact.
districts to impact.
Sure.
Otherwise, it would be a waste of public money.
Right, that's what we expect. Mr. Kojopo, do you want
No,
to
it's
say
okay.
anything? I don't want you to feel left out.
It's fine.
Great. Okay, so back to the main items lined up. We're starting with the big issue, the development story, bust. We have two energy experts here, so I would start with Mr. Jantua. This issue, for me, I perhaps want us to look at it outside the politics of it, because the party's position here, you're looking at NDC, NPP, they're pretty much entrenched. Of course, one is saying, yes, this seems to be something that happened under the new administration, but there are reports, emerging reports that suggest that similar incidents happened in the past, which calls for a bigger probe, what the majority calls a full-scale probe. That's fine. But let's look at the real issues here. Contaminated oil being sold, leading to losses to the state, the entity bust, which for me is in business to make profits. If what we are hearing is true about the previous incidents and all, then it means bust is not learning certain lessons in terms of these contaminations, and why it happens, I don't even know. Now my question is,
Did you say leading to losses?
Yes, I mean, if you're looking at the sale,
If you
it
have
was
to sell it
exactly at cheaper prices. Ultimately, you're going to lose as an entity or a business.
Sure.
Because currently, we are told that the ex-pump price is about, is it
3.85?
3.85, but they had to sell it at one
One
cedi.
cedi.
So clearly, you have those losses coming in here. So my question is,
The 3.85, please.
1 cedi 30.
3.85 is for
The X.
contaminated
No.
oil.
no, the
No, the
value.
full pump, the X
Yes.
pump.
Exactly. So we're talking about contaminated oil.
Right.
We're not talking about ex-pump prices. So they're not the same.
Of the yes,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah,
granted,
Yeah,
but
it's
at
the
least
same
there are
fall-
some
it's the same
losses.
fall that was brought in to be sold, that's contaminated. So if you have
actually
sold
sold-
it,
Exactly.
you have sold
At
at 3.85. So if
Yes.
you sell it at 1.3,
You've gone
or 1
way
cedi, you've
below,
made a loss.
yes, exactly.
That's what he's trying, that's
That's
what he's trying to say.
exactly what it is. So an entity that is set up to make profits continually, having these occurrences. I mean, and I'm basing this on the reports that are coming up, because I'm looking at it from a very, objective perspective here. What I'm struggling to understand what this whole contamination business is about.
I really don't understand how you bring in refined petroleum products, and we bring some in. Bring in refined petroleum products, and huge quantities are contaminated. I don't understand the logic there, because the kind of quantities they're talking about, 471,000 liters, is quite huge.
It's actually 5 million.
Well,
5 million, but probably I was looking
The
at
ones
the
that
one
were,
they
they were
can't exactly
offloaded or whatever it is.
which
yes.
MPA say they've now been able to find. There's a huge business in that realm, where you get a lot of factories, you get a lot of companies that are using machines, and huge business where they sell. As to who is regulating it is another question, because it looks as if MPA really do not have their hand on the pulse.
Just a
where that
minute,
is
let me
concerned.
understand it. So you're saying there's a market for contaminated oil.
Huge market.
So it's imported already contaminated.
Well, I'm not. This is
because
where
the story, this particular story says
I'd
it
like to
came in.
clarity to that.
Yes, please,
Okay.
because we need that.
For what the story at Bust is this. Around the 7th or 9th of January, there was importation of gasoline.
Normal
petrol.
gasoline.
Petrol.
Yes.
Now, we only have 1 CBM, which is the pipe that goes into the sea, which offload vessels with a load put out from the vessel. When you are bringing crude oil, there's the same pipeline that we use. If you are bringing gasoline, it's the same pipeline. If you bring in diesel, it's the same pipeline. The only thing that the person on duty or the crew on duty does is that there's a valve. When you change the valve to a certain setting, it directs the crude oil to Tor.
Yes.
If you change the valve to a certain setting, it directs the diesel to the tank at Bust, which diesel is supposed to go in. It's likewise for petrol. On the night in question, there was an error, human error,
Right.
where the valve was set mistakenly, so petrol went into a diesel tank. So with the tank with diesel, petrol now went
was a
in
blending
5 million
and then you
liters,
had
so
this
there's a blend
contamination,
of
right.
diesel and petrol.
Great.
That is what we are calling
Contaminated,
fuel.
yes. But clearly from Mr. Jantua's statement, there seems to be an importation of off-spec,
No.
which caters to, or that isn't what very well.
Off-spec fuel is different from contaminated fuel. You see, off-spec is such that there are certain specifications that we don't use in Ghana.
Yes.
Some in Russia, example, they have a lot of fuel that Ghana we can use. So somebody can go to Russia and bargain for a fuel in Russia and import it, but that one is not allowed by MPA.
Right.
So if you are an BDC or OTC, MPA will not allow you to import such a product. So the only time we are selling contaminated or off-spec is when there's an incident at bust. Now, whether some people are intentionally doing that to sell it, to make whatever, that is what we don't know.
Sure.
So, Mr. Johnson,
but Mr. Johnson, carry on, yes.
Also contamination.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You want to make an interjection?
Yeah, no, I just want to just add, because it's a question of
yes, it's just
indeed,
quickly and then, yeah.
Indeed, if you monitor, and I don't know whether Kwame will know this, if you monitor the activities of the downstream sector, there are certain times that companies, because I was talking about the off-spec, when we import the off-spec, companies bring in off-spec products. And when MPA declares it as off-spec, and basically just because, just as you said, it's the specification that have been agreed within Ghana, the company has a choice to either send it back or to ensure that they bring it back within the specifications. A typical example is about 3-4 weeks ago, Bosch itself brought in a product that was declared off-spec, and they had to work on it to bring it within the specifications. Right. So these things, they are normal practices that come within the industry. I just felt that I just wanted to bring
what it is that you see there are certain octane numbers. That's very technical.
Yes, it's octane numbers. Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you.
If it's below the spec, you can take it to the refinery.
Up to standard.
They add chemicals to it to bring it back.
Back to spec.
Different from this situation. And that's what I want us to distinguish, because it seems as though there is the off-spec one, which is not meeting the standard, but you can work on to get it. And then there is the one that comes in normal, but due to the offloading, which is the situation we got in here. So that distinction, it becomes off-spec, but it didn't come in originally as off-spec. That's the distinction we need to make. So carry on. And so the particular instance we're dealing with now came in normal, but due to the offloading issues, we ended up having it contaminated.
And
so carry on. That distinction is important.
That has sludge in it, which also
that's a slop.
Slop, the slop or sludge. Yes, the underpart contaminates it.
Right.
And then there's the fourth one where you get the fuel smugglers syndicate bringing that also in. So there are different ones, but this one, as you said, has got to do with, as Kojo said, the diversification of the oil going into
the wrong tank.
The wrong tank. But the question I then ask is that, why should it become political? The minister, who has oversight responsibility over these things, has set up a committee. And the committee is made up of distinguished institutions like BNI and the like. Why don't we wait for those results before politicians now take it up? That this one has hit me, so I have to hit them back. It doesn't help us. Yes, Ghana seems to have lost money with this. It seems to be a business that is going on not only to outsiders, but also within Bost itself. Because we heard over the week that even staff members of Bost were trading this off-spec thing. Whether it's perception, whether it's truth, we don't know.
We'll wait for the outcome of the committee's work.
But it's out there. But I think we should wait for the committee's work and not, use it as a political platform. It doesn't help any of us. It doesn't help the general public. It doesn't help the politicians themselves. It creates a certain kind of lack of confidence in the people who are supposed to oversee some of these things on behalf of Ghanaians. And so for me, I think that the minister has set up a committee. Let's wait for what the committee has to say. Because all that is going on, if the committee comes and gives their verdict, it would just clear everything out. The good thing, from what I heard yesterday, the MPA guys say, was that they've been able to identify that container that was missing, and that they can categorically say that none of this off-spec has gotten into into the system. So that's a good thing, because
But
I
they're
have
even well, exactly. So there are people also coming out, like ASAP is saying, that the executive director of ASAP is saying that he was sold contaminated oil. That is there. COPEC, I believe, has also gone ahead to say that. So then there are lots of issues here.
How was he be able? How did he identify?
That's the point I was
the
going to. Well, that's
contaminated,
what he's saying.
you know? Because yesterday, on Joy, Evans Mensah was saying that he also bought some fuel and thought his car started messing up and thought it was the fuel he put in his car. It only turned out that it wasn't so.
But in any case, assuming it was even contaminated oil, how can we be sure that it's traceable to this stock of 5 million liters, for instance? Those are issues.
Yes, but then who would have disbursed that stock of oil at that particular petrol garage? We'll be able to trace that. Once we're able to trace that, we'll be able to trace where it came from. But you see, for me, the major thing is the smuggling syndicate. Now that we've identified that there's something like off-spec, we should now go down and look at this smuggling syndicate who are also bringing fuel in. And you see, it's not even the fuel stations. It is those small petrol stations along the traveling route who take this in. Let's say you're driving and you realize that, oh, my petrol is finished. There's no petrol garage in the vicinity. You go and stand there, they put it in, and there you go. Bob's your uncle.
I mean, you're raising a number of issues there. You're looking at regulation and everything. But again, you said that perhaps we should wait for the committee's report and then we can talk about it. But even before the committee gets to work, people are raising issues about the composition of the committee. That the fact that you have the BDCs present in there, the OMCs present in there, they're raising issues about, what kind of judgment they're going to bring to bear on the work and everything. I want Mr. Kojopoku to address us on that, but also definitely you can address any other issue that has come up so far.
Well, if there is a problem, and I want to start off with the political football.
That's why I said I don't want us to even go into
no,
that and look at the real issues.
I'm not going to go into that, but let me make a statement. Look, I think politics of equalization is very old. If in the old administration, anytime there was contaminated fuel, however it happened, somebody sits in his office and sell it to whoever he wants. That was the norm in that administration.
Right.
The Ghanaians realized that the way NDC was carrying on their activities, 1 million Ghanaians decided to vote otherwise and brought MPP into power. And His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo had a message. His message was very simple: transparency and no corruption. He even went a step further and appointed a minister in charge of procurement. So if you are to serve in Nana Addo's administration, what we expect is that you can't sit in your office and do things as normal as it was before. So if people are now bringing out lists that, oh, look, this is not the first time Bost has sold contaminated fuel. There's 28 companies that Kingsley Wada sold to. So what?
Let me, just a minute, please don't lose your train of thought. I wouldn't see that as political equalization. I would see it as trying to get the institutions working. Because what it sends to me, when I heard this news initially, I thought it was the first time that such a thing was happening.
So no, such a thing was happening as in how?
If it's as in contamination, it's coming in normal and then becoming...
No. It's the first time. See, let me tell you why it became an issue. Look, when you preach certain things, people expect something different from you. Nobody expected the management of Bost to go in and do whereby you sell something on one at a price that nobody has debated on. You see, it is the culture. In the previous culture, things were done a certain way, so nobody heard about it. But in this new culture where transparency is being preached, everybody expects you to be on point. And also, you can see that there are certain documents in the media, in social media. I don't know if those documents are true or not. And these are some of the things that this 8-panel committee will look into it. Those are some of the things that made this thing become an issue, whereby a company is issuing a letter on the 29th of May, and the registration of that company is the 1st of June. Those are things that now propped up the interest, coupled with when products have left Bost and is going to companies that do not have substantive capacity. And people are asking, where are these products going? So yes, the whistleblower helped to contain the problem because 5 million liters of fuel. We never knew if some of that could have ended up in the forecourt or not, but at least it's been contaminated. Let me go back to what I was saying.
But before you go on, the person who accidentally switched that valve, what has been
Well,
done
the
to
boss
that
says
person?
they did, and they went
Yes.
into it, investigated, and have sanctioned the staff appropriately. Whatever that means,
exactly.
we don't know. So maybe
Exactly.
the 8-member
Because-
committee here
Because
will let us
the
know.
money that we have spent to buy that fuel, what has happened to
Yes.
it?
So, well, they are saying they did, they are sanctioning and everything, but we don't know the details
So
of that.
let me
So
now
yes,
go on
that
to
could have been curious.
I honestly don't think that
Ask you this
the
question.
two parties should have really expanded political capital on this issue. Yes, it's good. Honorable Boa made a statement. Those statements had veracity where some of the things that he pointed out were to be investigated. And that is the call that the minister has come out to say that, look, let MPA, let all the agencies within the sector come together, look at various points of things that needs to be looked at. How does these things keep occurring? Is it a sitting syndicate there that keeps doing this thing?
Right.
How is it that it wasn't rectified the way it's supposed to be rectified? So those are the things that the committee is supposed to look at. But the issue is now people are saying that why would OMC and BDC sit on? Why wouldn't they sit on? They
Because
are
in the
people-
past,
they
they've
are the
shown a
people-
certain resistance
It doesn't matter. It means
to
that
bust.
It means
And that
that
isn't, we know that.
It means that when they sit on, they are not going. You see, it is a fact-finding committee. They are not there to pass judgment on you. They are to sit there to ask questions. They will invite individual people to come and they will bring a report to say that we called Mr. Honorable Obiamwa. These are the statements he made. These are how we draw conclusions. And at the end of the day, we think that there should be prosecution or nobody has done wrong or right. That is the issue. But all these things about people coming out to say that, oh, the man contributed so much money to the party, the man did
I'm
this.
not even.
Oh, no,
We're looking
it's,
at-
it's
yes.
unfortunate that he drives a Bentley. Who cares? Even if the man gave his kidney to
Which
Nana
man
Addo-
are you talking about, by the way? Because
Well, I don't want to mention names, but what I'm
no,
saying
but
is that
today everybody
there are
knows.
statements on air that are not healthy to the
Of course,
conversation.
those are, yes,
You
allegations
understand? My
yet to
point
be
is that
proven, so.
right is right, wrong is wrong. What the man did, if it's alleged and found to be true, that is wrong. I don't expect anybody to hold press conferences until the committee report comes out. Minority has their right to point things out, and
which
I'm
they
sure they
did.
will always do.
Yeah.
Some of the things that they said, oh, the things are in the forecourt, like you said, some people said that they've bought some, all those were found out not to be true. But it is a right call. If we don't have people policing the system, we would not have had that
you
situation.
said all those were found out not to be true. The allegations or the
No,
claims that they
I mean
bought.
the bit where they said that the product were on the market and
Yes,
should be
they were not.
recalled.
They were not true.
They were not
So
on
why
the
would
market.
but
why would
actually-
people peddle such
actually-
untruths then?
Actually,
Just land and then yes, I'll come
Okay
to your
then. Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Kojo,
Say
just
that
land.
again.
Sorry about that.
I said, so why would such people
Well, you
peddle
see,
such untruths?
I'm
What
not
is the
saying it was
motive
peddled
there?
of untruth. You see, if a situation happens and you get information that products have left, and Bost is to be blamed for this, and the PRO of Bost, who I'm very disappointed with, is also to be blamed for this, because even on the Tuesday morning when this thing happened, and I made my checks, and she was on Joy to say that only 100,000 liters had left. It turns out not to be true. That 400 over 1,000, 400,
470,000.
So why would
470,000.
you say a thing like that?
That's my problem. So it now ends credence to some of the things about how when people say that, oh, the products are on the market, because when Boss themselves can't even account for how much have left.
Right.
So it becomes a problem. So that is the investigation.
leaves room for speculation.
Exactly. So the investigation that needs to be done is that how come even when we found out, we were told that 100,000 had left, when in fact 471,000 had left. So those things, I think everybody should cease fire. Let's get the investigation. And I'm sure the minister himself has said that he's going to sit as chairman of the committee. And, well, that's what I heard. I heard the minister is going to sit as chairman of the committee.
Actually, that's what one of the
what we
reporters,
heard.
Star FM,
That's what we
even
heard.
also reported
But
that.
you
But it
can't
will be
say that
irregular.
you can't
And
say
be
that
honest
serious
as well. I mean
irregular.
that
Well,
it's totally
okay, well,
irregular,
that's
yes.
not true, but
So
at
please
least
land for me.
they are going to do competent work and give us the report.
Very well. Honorable Bawa, let's hear from you. So you had these, you started this out, I mean, this press conference made all these allegations and all. Now, it turns out that this is something that goes way back, 2014. You see, And I'm bringing it there not to do any political equality. I have no interest in doing
worry.
that.
Those things, that's why we're here.
Exactly.
That's why we're here.
I'm just concerned about that because Mr. Jantua in his submissions made something. That's why I probed it further, because it seems to me that there's a certain market for this product which necessitates a regular supply, which has implications for the state, because then you have diversions and creation of contaminated oil for that market, just so the market can thrive, which is quite worrying. What do you say about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, it's important that in discussing, it's possible that some people for the whole week didn't follow the news. And so when you take it from the middle, they don't even know what you're discussing. You understand? So the basic facts. The basic facts are that, one, there was this news that broke up that Bost was selling or had sold 5 million liters of contaminated products to a company known as Movimpina. This company, based on checks that were done by the minority and other groups. I, for example, because I had worked in the sector for 7 years, so I knew very well, I knew who and who to talk to. We got to realize that Movimpina, as Kojo was saying, that one was not even a registered company. At least at the time they had applied for the letter to buy the product. We realized that it was not a licensed BDC or OMC that MPA has confirmed. The company that Movimpina subsequently also gave the product to was equally not licensed, and that has also been confirmed. We also got some things that were very irregular in terms of the relationship between the current MD, or I say, or acting MD, because there's no board to confirm him, and the company Movimpina. So we got those things. There were certain concerns we had. One had to do with the loss of revenue to the state, and that we will talk about. The other had to do with the possibility of these contaminated products ending up in people's engines. So these were the issues that we had. One, we indicated very clearly that...
That's the only issue.
No. Because I'm coming.
Because you one of the things you just said was the fact that the acting MD had a relationship.
So that's one area. That's one thematic area. So and then the contamination. So when I then come to the thematic area, I would then tell you. I would then make them. Kwame, don't.
Please, let's carry on. Yes.
So basically, let's start with the relationship. One of the things we got to realize was that, look.
But you see, all this will be investigated by the committee. And for me, that's why we don't need to dwell on that, because your press conference was made, you've put out the issues. Just a minute.
But you need to know what issues have been investigated.
Fantastic. We've said that. But that's why I'm saying, for me, and indeed for the many Ghanaians, there are real issues beyond these allegations which are yet to be investigated by the committee.
And what are the issues?
And that's the question I'm asking. Consistently, we seem to be losing revenue. I mean, there are reports here also alleged, I'm not sure we can confirm that, but at least there is information coming out that there were other 38 companies equally unlicensed who were. So let's look at those things. And
so
the fact that Bost
if you want us to look at that, I'm excited to go there.
Yes, that's for me the way to go.
I'm excited to go there. I'm very excited to go there.
So Bost in itself, we need to look at it critically.
Be patient.
Yes.
You will realize that in the early stages of our discussion, we tried making a distinction between what we call slop and what we call contaminated or off-spec product. In 2013, December 24th, there was a contamination at Bost.
Yes.
The quantity that was involved in this was 200,000 liters. This product was subsequently treated at APD, that's at the Accra Depot, and sold at full market value. Since then, we have not had contamination until this one that occurred on the 18th of January. We have had, just as you said, that they've listed some of this. There must be a distinction, and I'll tell you that. In the oil and gas sector, we have people who deal in slops. These guys are not licensed OMCs, and they are not licensed BDCs. However, conditions governing their activity is that, one, before you partake in the purchase of any slop, you would have to get what do you call it, a certificate from MPA and one from EPA because of the environmental implications of the product. Because if you look at slopes are very thick.
Very heavy.
That's why slopes are not loaded on gantries. They are discharged into manholes and then pumped into trucks. So the moment you have something being pumped on a gantry, it is no longer a slope because of the nature of it.
Right. So
I'm coming, be patient.
Intervention. No, we're educating people as well. So when the NPA and the Act in Section 11 is saying you can't deal in commercial activities in the downstream sector until you're licensed, you're saying that requirement is not applicable to these categories.
It's a gray area.
How is it gray? It's either it is or it's not.
That is why
it's a gray area.
That's why.
And who interprets that?
So that's the regulator. So that's why the regulator, in his own wisdom, thinks that even before you come for it,
that gap needs to be closed.
Yes, closed. So you come for a certification from them, and then because of the nature of the product, you also need one from EPA. So you need these two things to be able to bid even for the slop. All the companies that were listed as people, companies that were unlicensed, either BDCs or OMCs, were dealers in slops. And that was a serious misinformation to the public. So let's not create, and I am very careful at going after our institutions, because sometimes when you do that, then you scandalize everybody who works in that area. That you have a situation that for about 16 how many companies are dealing, unlicensed companies are dealing in the oil and gas downstream sector.
But then the information out there is yet to be investigated.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm making.
At this point, we can scandalize Boss. Why do I say that? Wait, why do I say that? Boss knows that anybody who deals in this product should get certification from MPA.
Right.
Did they check? Did they check with these companies?
Good. Your point is
So the point is this.
So when am I coming?
You definitely come in.
By the current state, the product that was the product that we are talking about is not slop. But it's
even slop.
No,
it's not slop.
It's not slop.
Even slop.
Yes.
Even this one, they need certification for it.
Exactly, and they didn't have. But he's trying to make a distinction.
I'm trying to make it. I don't know, Kwame, whether you are listening to me. I'm saying that this is not slop.
Yes.
And because it is not slop, anybody who have to deal with this product will have to be a licensed OMC or a BDC.
And I'm saying
that is my argument.
I'm saying that Boss should have followed regulation
to
make sure that this company.
I agree with you.
We totally get that.
You see, you are preaching to the choir.
Yes.
I agree with you that Boss needed to ensure that this company or the companies that were involved needed those to
let me just make a point of correction here. I'm just being told that our production team has verified, and the 2013 incident involved 2 million, not 200,000, as you said. So
no, it's 200,000.
Well,
it's 200,000.
Verified information that it's 2 million.
I say that because in 2013 I was in the sector and I know what I'm talking about. It's 200,000. Now,
you haven't finished.
You see?
No, he hasn't. Please let him.
Oh, no, So now, it is on the basis of this that we ask the minister to investigate this, or this, at least, the ministry to investigate that. I think the minister took the right decision by constituting the committee. If you look at the institutional representation that are supposed to be part of this committee, it's fantastic.
Yes.
You have the regulator, you have the BDC, you have everything.
So you don't think that presence of the BDCs, OMCs there?
No, they are major stakeholders.
That's fine.
They are major
We just needed that
technical area.
However, we have a challenge here.
Right.
And it was one of the things that the minority spoke about the continuous presence of the MD at the premises of Boss. If the committee will have to do any good job, they will need people from Boss to volunteer information as to what they know about the transaction. They will need documentation to be able to do this. If you have an MD who, even after setting up the committee, is still going around making statements, because at the end of the day, if you are the MD and they say you have done something untoward, and there's a committee that has been set by your superiors, what business do you have going around? If you have a story to tell, wait and tell them. So if you have a situation where the MD is still hopping from one place to another,
you find that problematic.
It's very irregular. So it means that this is somebody who has the potential to interfere with the integrity of the findings of the committee. And that's why we indicated that. Look, as at now, we can't place a judgment value on what he did, but we can at least ask him, 3-4 weeks, they will finish. Just step aside. Let them finish this. If you're exonerated, come back and take your job.
Sure, let me
agree with what my
You've
brother
all
is saying.
spoken, let me hear
based
from
on the labor, the union.
The unionized staff and their pronouncement.
It was really wrong.
Why was it wrong?
Why would the union, the MD or the management is not part of the union? Nobody is criticizing their colleague, who they are member of the union who caused financial loss to the state. Nobody has even gone there. So there are people in. If we were now hounding for their members who caused the problem, then the unionized staff have to do the press conference.
Maybe they're only showing solidarity to their boss. And
no, but exactly that's what I'm saying, that if the boss is no longer their boss, then...
But the fact that he's interdicted doesn't mean he's not.
Well, in the interim, he's not.
But
let me... Honorable Obiamwa.
Just a second. It could help your argument.
You're preempting it.
Where is the evidence
that
to prove that the MD was part and parcel of it? Is it perception? I'm being very
It's alleged.
It's alleged.
Yes, alleged.
It's alleged.
Yes.
Is there evidence to prove?
Well, that's what the investigation is.
So if there is no evidence,
no, let me show. There's evidence.
But you see,
there's evidence.
There's
evidence, and that's what everybody keeps running away from. Indeed, our early checks on Moving Pina, you see the letterhead that they had. The number that was on the letterhead, and we have stated this over and over again.
The telephone number.
The telephone number that was on the Moving Pina letterhead was traceable to his private office at Airport Residential Area.
Well, so
those
are
alleged. That's why we are worried.
That's fine.
That's why we are worried. That is very careful.
Please calm down. Honorable Bawa, we do appreciate that. Your press conference brought out issues, and it's been taken on board.
So I was responding to his concern.
Honorable Obiamwa.
Yes, I should state on record that I have been following the fortunes of BOST for a long time, for various reasons, some of which are personal. But as we go on, probably it will come up. When the story broke that, one, there was contaminated products on the market, and that the product was imported by BOST, and that they are being sold on the market, and that persons or members of the public have detected that it's affecting their vehicles. We're all alarmed.
Yes.
I was really alarmed. I said, what's going on? Then it turned out that one, BOST had not imported any contaminated product. Two, ASAP jumped the gun, came to these conclusions, and to the extent that I heard the ASAP man saying that even he couldn't turn his engine on because it also turned out not to be true. So I was a bit surprised. Then we started reading on the social media that indeed BOST had sold contaminated product to a company which is not even registered, and that if it's even registered,
or which wasn't registered at the time they were.
And that company had close links with even the MD. Of course, that also raised issues. Now, BOST, if you follow their history, they've been through, at least I know of, 2 cultural practices that you can now say is cultural. One, you find BOST always jumping to press conferences. You find union backing an MD or attacking an MD. It really came up during Dako's time. To the extent that anytime they said anything about BOST, you had a union leader coming on there to come and defend Dako. The records are there.
It's true.
At one point, it was even a battle between the junior staff and the senior staff. Senior staff against the Dako, junior staff for the Dako in this country. Now, NDC jumps in with a press conference, and they make so many allegations, including the fact that the company is not registered. Based on these allegations, the MD should step aside. I think the major issue
for an investigation.
For investigation.
But those are legitimate concerns, aren't they?
That is their solution. I'll come to that, and I'll point out how sometimes, as politicians, we turn out to be hypocrites, which is not good for politics at all. Because now you think that when there are investigations, people should step aside. The same Amabua, who was minister of Energy, he set up a high-powered investigative team at BOST.
That's
Did he
true.
ask anybody to step aside? Indeed, the then chairman of BOST, Hudu Yaya, even refused to be part of that committee. He refused to even appear before that committee. The report is there.
I will address that issue.
He refused to appear before
But
that
that was
committee.
not against the boss
Did
MD.
anybody
was not against
step
the
up?
MD.
It was investigation about happenings at the depot.
Yes.
People who were selling bus fuel and everything. Fraudulent, they said, his words he even used was fraudulent acts at the depot.
Yeah.
Did a single soul go on interdiction when the probe took place? After the probe, what
Because
happened?
no specific person was accused.
But
It was.
does he-
It had to do with
That-
product losses.
But was that right?
No, but the question is, who are
Please
you going
allow-
to get? No, who are you going to
please,
get?
now,
Please
Who are
allow,
you going
yes.
to interdict?
The head.
people were running the
The head
depots
of
there.
what? The head.
Yes.
People were running the
Please
depots
allow,
there.
The
please
head
allow
should step
Honorable.
aside.
People were running the depots
What's
there.
wrong?
Control and Honorable,
That's not
Honorable
Honorable
Bauer.
Actually, Papa
Honorable Bauer, please
said that.
let
You said that.
Obi,
Okay, no, no, no. So
yes.
you said that
Kojo,
when somebody
Kojo,
is
no, no, no,
One of
Kojo,
the-
please. Honorable
Because
Obiama, carry
what
on,
that could
please.
trigger that
Now
thing,
that
who triggered
Yes.
the concern?
Honorable,
That's
Okay, but you go on.
culture.
yes.
The
Please
word that
take
could
note of it
trigger
and respond when you have
The other
it.
Hudu Yaya was the board chairman. The word that could trigger the acting MD. And the acting MD was not a word that could.
No, hold on. Go on.
Now, I'm saying that the major thing that we should learn from this is that, so when it comes to contaminated products or slab, does it mean the procurement rules don't apply? Does it mean the MPA doesn't come in? These are the major issues that we have to look at. One, if indeed BOST set up a team to investigate this major contamination, and the contamination happened in January, what has happened to the report? Who were those involved? What has happened to them? This is an issue that we should all find answers to. My major problem is that if at the end of the day, this is what is going on at BOST, the committee should be able to come out to say that this is the practice at BOST, and this practice cannot be countenanced in any way, whether under one regime or another regime. So henceforth, this issue has brought this to the fore.
So that will be in the committee's report. You are expecting
Yes.
that to be there.
No, but it's
Yes.
part of their.
It's
The
part
terms
of
of
their,
reference,
yes, it's
right.
part of their terms of reference. But the issue that he even brought that for slab, you can sell it to anybody. The question you ask is, BOST Union was given 100,000 liters to sell. BOST Union, are they licensed to deal in such products?
Honorable Obiamwa,
Said
let me state this point again.
Yes,
Dealers in slopes
yes.
are not licensed. However, if you, as the MP, decides that today you are interested in buying some quantities of slop,
I should just go to
no,
BOST and then
no,
they will sell
you
it
will go
me.
to MPA.
For a
A
certificate.
certificate, go to EPA
So
for a certificate to come and pay for the product.
BOST Union was giving certificate to deal in the product.
Anybody can do that.
But how can you do that?
Anybody
justify
can
it?
do
But
that.
you see,
People who
This
work
is
in
why
that
they-
Unless you say
company,
that if you are
Honorable
questioning the
Bauer.
procedure.
people who work in that
Honorable
company
Bauer.
can deal in that
Honorable
product.
Bauer.
Then they can
Please let
help
allow him
in
then.
contaminating the
No,
product.
I
so
just
that
want to
they
say
go
that- I just
SPA
want to say
apply
that-
Please allow him.
to deal
I
in
just
the
want to
product.
tell you the
You can
distinction
continue.
between
No,
a
I know the
license
distinction
for
very well.
product.
I gave you. I know the
Honorable
distinction very well.
Obiamwa, carry on, please.
I know the distinction very well. What I'm saying is that if you are justifying it, then when it comes to contamination of a certain quantity or slop, in that case, anybody can deal with it by applying to MPA. Now, where is even the evidence that MPA gave them approval to deal in those things? Where is the evidence? Because you are saying that they don't even need it.
But you see,
So at what point would the
So
union...
do you
Just a
concede
minute,
now
please,
that these
please.
were not BDCs that you asked you put out
Honorable Bauer.
yesterday
Put-
in your press
out.
conference?
We never put out anything about
Honorable
BDC.
Obiamwa.
Now, the last point I
Yes.
want to make is that, indeed, I think that the composition of the committee looks very good. But at the end of the day, I was wondering, why is MPA on it? Because MPA probably will end up being involved in this matter because they are the regulators. So all along, have they been regulating this thing?
Those are
And
issues we
indeed,
need to-
when
we
did
need
they
to
hear? When did they hear that there was contamination? Did they have to take 6 months for the media and other
But that's
parties
what
to come out
their
before
press release
MPA?
indicates that they didn't hear it all
You
the while
understand?
until
So how do
June
you investigate this
20th
matter?
or so.
When you yourself, as regulator, after 6 months, you are now coming to know that there was contamination and now the product has been given to people who are not licensed by you, the MPA. Now you are going to investigate it and you are going to find yourself culpable in this matter. That is where I think I have a little challenge.
Honorable, just
Anna.
quickly before I go to Mr. Johnson. No, just a minute. On the point where Honorable Obiamwa landed, thing about the NPA going in there and raising issues, because you're looking at a value chain, if you, I mean, an ecosystem of sorts. There are various stakeholders there. The NPA is obviously the regulator, and clearly what has happened under their watch is quite a bit not right, to say the least. So if they are on the board, really, is that appropriate? Would they be able to say that, well, they erred? That is a genuine question, a legitimate question. We need to look at that.
When you have a committee of this nature, you need to get all the human capital necessary to be able to make informed decisions.
Necessary, you said.
Yeah, necessary. So the NPA.
We need to go for our first break.
Okay,
please hold on to your thoughts. We'll be back. You're watching New Day Saturday edition. See you shortly. Welcome back. This is New Day Saturday edition. We're live on TV3. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, and we're live on our Facebook page, also on 3news.com and on GhanaWeb.com. I will read some messages and then go back to the panel. This one is coming in from Abdullahi Alias. This is Minister in Zantani, Tolan District. He says, I'm totally in support of the majority that there should be a forensic audit in the Bosch saga from 2009 up to date. Says, please, I want to know the time that the fuel in question got contaminated, if your panelists can help me. And that was in January.
January 18th.
January 18th, yes.
January 18th.
That's it. Now, contaminated oil. This one says, our system is very weak. Why must Ghana allow dirty oil or contaminated oil onto the market? Ghana has paid top government officials to see to it that oil that enters the market is clean and safe, or of safe commercial consumption, meaning that most of the top government officials are very corrupt in their daily dealings. They do not consider the rights of or the interest of the citizens or the consumer in the market. Zaid in Adenta Fafaha says the NPP must stop the equalization game they seek to play with the Bosch issue. They should be able to distinguish between dirty oil and contaminated oil. Dirty oil is what we call slop or sludge. If it said if it had sold dirty oil, no one would talk about it. So the CEO erred and must be dealt with as such. This one coming in from A.U. Farouk says, good morning to you, Abna, and your panelists. Our members of parliament must hold their trust and integrity that was given them by their constituents. Their transparency and integrity is a must for them to hold as honorable members. Let me take two more. This one says, sometimes I find it so preposterous, the approach adopted by the NDC to criticize the NPP. They do so with alacrity. By so doing, the NDC end up exposing their misrule. This is highly unfathomable. I entreat the NDC to be circumspect. They should be gracious in their long stay in opposition. This is Kekusi and Ejisu Besiase. Good morning to you, Abna, and to your panel, especially to the Honorable Obi Amwa, and also to our MP and Deputy Minister for Tourism, Creative Arts, and you're greeting the Honorables. She says, our economy, in fact, I listened to some senior citizens of our beloved country who happen to understand our economy very well, say that the 15 billion, which His Excellency the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana has contracted, has nothing to do with our national debt. So the good of Ghana. Expect the minority to behave as serious opposition party in Ghana to facilitate development across board. Okay, so you're preempting that conversation, which will be coming up soon. Now, Al Hassan in WA says the establishment of one district, one factory will mean that each district becomes an economic growth pole, the center for the creation of jobs, and thereby half the phenomenon of rural-urban migration in the nation's youth would be curbed. Let's take this last one up. Now, the majority press conference was only laughable at best. That you come into office as government for 6 months now, you have seen rot perpetrated by a previous administration, and yet you didn't even cough about that until the CEO contaminated our oil and sold it. The thievery is glaring. This is from Berima in Cuba. In Gine. Well, we'll put a hold on to the messages and come back to the panel. Honorable Bao, you were making your point. I hope you didn't lose your train of thought.
It had to do why NPA should be part of the committee.
Right, yes.
And I was saying that, NPA has the human capital to look in terms of our regulatory framework, the regulatory environment. And so for a committee like this, you will need somebody on it to be able to advise in that regard.
Okay.
Because if we look at it, if we were to stretch this argument, everybody has fallen short of the glory of God.
I'm sorry to cut you again, Honorable Bar, but we have Mr. Senyo Hosi on the line, the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distribution Companies. Hello, good morning, Mr. Hosi.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes,
good morning
thanks for joining us. And quickly, I understand you'd like to make an intervention.
Yeah, I think we need to get a few things regulatorily clear.
Okay.
It's not the case that dealing in slop will not require...
If you could kindly speak up, please.
I think I had... Pardon?
Yes, kindly speak up. It's okay. Yes, kindly go on.
Referring to what my friend Bauer said, that dealing in slop, you don't require license. That's not true. You don't deal in this industry, in the downstream sector at any point without being licensed or authorized or permitted to do so by the authority. That's one. Two, having slop is very different from also having contamination as we currently have it. Slop, you're actually looking at residues in tanks that accrue over a long time and actually change some of the characteristics you have of products. So off-spec, slop is off-spec, but that doesn't mean that all off-spec is slop. Contamination is off-spec, but that doesn't mean that all off-spec is contamination. What used to happen during the Wadakus era was something that may be wrong and needs a probing into. Because if you remember, there was a time that someone had offered, and that article was out with evidence and documentation to support it, offered 2 CDs for slop. The Wadaku gave it to that person at 150 pesos. If people who picked it up are not licensed, that was equally illegal. It may not necessarily make this right, but nobody should assume that when you deal with slop, you can do it without regulatory approval. That's not the case.
Very well.
One last thing, reference to what Honorable Obi said about the committee. Fantastic. I see the committee very, very important. As a chamber, we'll definitely be nominating somebody, and that will not be myself because I've actively commented on the matter, so I don't think there should prejudice whatsoever there about. So I will not definitely be sitting on that committee. I'm not saying that he said so, but I think the committee has the capacity to help resolve this thing. And where there's criminality, right from Wadaku's time or to date, everything has to be dealt with. So it's not just supposed to be something, in my opinion, restricted to what Alfred Obing's tenure may have supervised. But this is something that goes back because we have to look at the interests of the state. Have we defrauded the state in any way by trying to get products out at prices that are ridiculous at the expense of the state? And slop, one last thing, slop does not happen regularly. So the frequency of slop during the Wadaku era is something that also has to be looked at. It's something that you do over a long time period. You are cleaning your tank, you are trying to change the use of your tank, you get to the residue. Just like everybody's fuel tank, after many years, you realize that there are certain residues you find them in your tank. Right.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Hosi, for that intervention. Thank you. We do appreciate that. Yes, he made...
Let me state this, and I want to tell Senyo about it. Senyo represents an interest group within the industry, and they had always wanted to carve that area, that particular business for themselves, and therefore felt that they should be put...
Are you being personal?
No, I'm not being... No, I'm saying that, no, he represents a body.
Yes,
yeah,
the BDCs.
He represents the BDCs. I have not in any way said...
And that's why people are raising issues about their presence on the committee. But you were okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay. I want BDCs to be there. I want MPA to be there. The point I'm just trying to make is that the mere fact that you go to be certified before you can partake in the slop doesn't mean that you are not regulated. Or else we would have just said that just go and buy, just like you want to buy tomatoes from Malata. That's the point we are making. No, so yes, but you must not necessarily be a licensed operator.
Let me just read the Section 11 because I have an issue with that. The Section 11 of NPA Act is saying a person, and here including companies and whoever, shall not engage in a business or commercial activity in the downstream industry unless that person has been granted a license for that purpose by the board. I think it's quite.
Let me help this argument.
Yes.
In the downstream, this is the chain. A BDC imports fuel, sells it to an OMC, and OMCs are the ones with the filling stations, and they now sell it to the public. An OTC can also import fuel, but OTC imports fuel, and normally they don't have forecourts, so they sell it in bulk to maybe the mines and all those. So they are the oil trading companies. Now, those is what the Section 11 talks about. The slop and the contamination is used by industries. It's not used in the mainstream business. So because it
but
is
somebody
used
would
by
buy it
industry-
and then sell it to them.
Yes,
Isn't that what it is?
That is the criminality part of it. But the main agenda of the contaminated or off-spec product is to be used by the steel millers and all industries that use that. And that's why we are saying there's a gray area, because the industry, the MPA, does not license people for that. They license for recycling oil. You know, when you have engine oil that has been taken out, and there are people who goes around and buy that. There's 2 companies that are registered by MPA who does recycle oil. That they regulate. But that's what I'm saying, there's a gray area. So those are going for some of the things that some of these
Exactly, we
committees
need to
can
have
also-
that. Let me come back to Honorable.
That's why, to be able to trace who buys what quantity, for example, EPA will know exactly that I gave you a line, I gave you a certificate to go and pick it. MPA, I gave you a certificate to go and pick it. So on the basis of that, we still will know where this thing ends up with. And just as I said, it's used mostly in the industry, where sometimes they add that and mix it with RFO for
That's what
particular
Zoop
boilers,
oil actually said.
for boilers
Yes.
that they do. Now, the reason why I think MPA should be part of it, and I agree with, look, I think MPA has been, yes, you may say that they are regulators of the industry, and therefore on the basis of that, they should have even recognized that this thing was happening before even the public started crying. But the BNI, if there's the same logic, the national security, they have a function in ensuring that these things happen. But it happened, but they are on the board. I think that over the period, MPA may be faulted in one way or the other, but they have also been consistent, and I'm going to tell you why. When this issue came out in terms of confusion on the quantities that had gone out, when Boss said it was 100,000, they followed and realized there's 471,000. It was consistent with what other independent bodies, including our group, knew because of the receipts and other things that went through Boss, and we saw that. 2, they were very honest when they could not account for some quantities that had already gone out. You remember that 2 days ago in the evening, the CEO himself had indicated that, look, they could not account for roughly around 50 to 60,000 liters of fuel because they didn't know exactly where it was until yesterday when they gave the update and said that, look, now they can account for it plus or minus 3% margin of error. That's what they had put there. So basically, I think that their conduct, even in this case, suggests some level of conduct, at least to the, what they call it. Yeah, that. So, on what basis would you not, because on what basis would you not want, because if on the same logic, BDCs, so I say OMCs, BDC, others, there are crooked ones around who still also do things that may not be right.
Right.
But they are on it.
No, Kojopoku, we need to go for a break, but before that, on Mr. Hossi is still on the line. Let me get his last reactions to this, and then we go, and then I come back to you. Yes, Mr. Hossi?
Yeah.
Hello, yes.
Read the app. It's very clear. Anytime there's a gray area with licensing, read what the name, 11.
Hello, Mr. Hossi, could you repeat that? We didn't hear you.
I said it is very, very clear in the app how this is handled. Nobody, 11.1, a person shall not may not, engage in the business of commercial activities in the downstream unless that person has been granted a license for that person by the board. And look at the next index in 2, and look at 3. It says the authority may by legislative instrument limit or expand the scope of activities under subsection 2. Anytime there's a gray area, you go to the regulator and we authorize you on what to do. It is not the case that anybody working in this part of this industry without a license, that is illegal. And secondly, BDCs are dealers.
So quick question, Mr. Hossi.
Right. We need this industry to work properly, legally, and in order. The impunity this industry has started over time is gradually distorting the structure of the industry. When we ask that things are done properly, it's not because anybody wants to cover any market. We are not slop dealers. Slop volumes are worth few thousands of liters. That's not what distributors do and are interested in. Please be informed and guided accordingly.
Right. Now, Mr. Hossi, quick question. Still on that subsection 3 you read. it's clearly stated that the authority may, by legislative instrument, go ahead to expand the scope of activities as provided above. But the question is, so you are saying for sure that the regulations by the NPA do not make provision for slop dealers not to have licenses in order to carry on business. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, there's nothing like slop dealer. The regulation does not recognize anybody as slop dealer.
Okay.
If you want to purchase slop, you go to the regulator for licensing.
Right.
It will tell you the appropriate license. What happens often with slop is that you often blend it or you want to dispose it at RFO levels to industries. So anybody who trades it at that level and has a license to do that is a person who does that. If you want to correct it, there's a license for waste processing. You take it to them, they may process it for you, or the refinery, for them to re-blend it for you. Okay. And then you have your product back and trade it appropriately.
Which one? Is it
So please, nobody has a special interest in this, but this industry must have order. When we have people suggesting that anybody can go in and do certain things, we are engaging and encouraging illegality and criminality.
Right.
That is why I have to intervene and correct that.
Mr. Hosi, just a minute. Kwesho Bogu has a question for you.
Senor, listen to me. I'm very well. If somebody is in Tema and he converts kernel into kernel oil and he sells the kernel oil as fuel to the steel industry, does he need a license?
As long what kernel?
Kernel oil, I don't go. Kernel oil. Kernel. Somebody sells kernel oil to an industry for fuel. Does he need a license?
Will he need a license?
Yes.
My suggestion to you is that if you're using any material to refine and produce fuel that's supposed to be consumed and recognized in our downstream section, please go and take your clearance.
No, I mean to the industry. Selling to industry.
That you do not need one. But if you're going to have products that will not have to come on the market through industry or through whatever it is, you need to go for regulatory clearance.
Great. Now, Honorable Bauer has a rebuttal on what you said.
Everybody.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you
Bauer.
hear me? Yeah, Charlie. Sorry, I said Charlie.
I mean, your statement was quite unfortunate. I would suggest that you review that, Bauer. That you think what my submission said because we want to cover the market.
Let me make my point.
Let me
also have I said let me have my
say. It would be just nice of you to do so.
Yeah, let me make my point. I agree with you. I agree with you when you indicate that based on the example you gave. Basically, when we talk about the downstream sector, there must be products of hydrocarbons.
Yes.
So there must be hydrocarbons by nature. So that I agree.
The kernel is,
That being said, Senor, if somebody who wants to get slop from Bust or wherever goes to EPA and then MPA for a certificate to be able to do that, how do you see that not to be a regulation in itself? And for that matter, the person has a document. Because license is basically being given a document that gives you
buy slop is a product.
It's a product, I agree.
It's a product that is traded.
Yes.
So to buy and sell it, to buy and use it, it is a commercial activity.
Yes.
So the person who is going to give it to you must have the authority and the license to do so.
Yes.
To buy slop, you must have it. Bust as an entity or refineries as an entity, unless they are authorized to actually sell slop to end users.
Yes.
Then they can do it. The refinery can do it. Yes. But as a trading company, you may not be allowed to do that. But as somebody calling yourself slop dealer, we don't even know there's nothing called slop dealer.
Yes, so the question...
I think on the regulations
my question
go and take your license and let them tell you what you require to deal in slop. And you get the license. If that license is an OTC license, you get your OTC license. Right. If it's a BTC license, you get it. If it's an OMC license, you pick it. Nobody works without a license in this industry. Simple.
No, I think we can. Let me come back to thank you. Yes.
So the point is that in the wisdom of MPA and the practice all this while has always been that to be able to regulate you and to be able to give you a license or give you a permit to be able to operate on that, they give you a certificate. But those things are temporary, depending on when you do that.
No, that's also not necessarily. That's also not necessarily. That's not necessarily a case. You apply for a license, or you apply for a permit, depending on the category you want to operate in. Some of them we call them licenses, some of them we call them permits. When you are supposed to be giving a license, in some cases you are giving a provisional license. In some cases you are giving an intent to license before you are licensed for you to operate. So either way, you'll be licensed to operate. You may not necessarily have a certificate, or you may not necessarily call that a certificate, but your the authority won't give you the license or the permission to operate in a given capacity and in a regulated manner.
Yes.
Every single thing that you do here, the only thing is how you hire and how you don't hire. Very soon, maybe that may even be regulated.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Hoti. Kindly stay on the line. We'll come back to the panel here, and then eventually we'll get back to you. Mr. Jantua.
I just wanted to go through the committee. What terms of reference were given them. And I'm sure quite a number of people have heard the committee has been set up, but they don't know who constitutes that committee. So the constitution of the committee is the NPA, National Petroleum Authority, Tema Oil Refinery, TOR, Ghana Standards Authority, GSA, Bureau of National Investigations, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Association of Oil Marketing Companies, and Energy Commission. And then a representative from a relevant civil society organization. Right. Who chooses that civil society organization?
No, maybe they have a platform for that.
It's not mentioned there. But the other thing, it says the committee is expected to advise the ministry on the necessary technical, administrative, and legal actions. Who is there legally? Shouldn't the Attorney General Department be in there too? Who is going to interpret the legal assertions that will come out?
Right.
Now, the other thing is the scope, terms of reference. Have they covered a wide terms? And there are only 5 terms of reference. It says, determine the circumstances that created the off-spec product. Now, off-spec and contamination, are they the same? They are not the same, different. So they need to look at that. 2, review the procedures undertaken by BOSS to evacuate the product. Ascertain the quality and remaining quantity of the product. Determine if the product can be corrected. If not, determine the alternative use for the product. Review the transaction. So, within, there's only 5. So, within this gamut of TORs, where does it now pinpoint an individual who is alleged to be part and parcel of it? Which, out of these, where does that fall?
But is it to assess the transaction as a whole?
Yes.
What can incorporate that?
Yes.
Can incorporate.
And
that.
while the committee also sits, there were other areas that will come up and we will expand on it.
And besides that, is it with committee?
But you see, if the committee is set up, the terms of reference should be strictly stuck to. Otherwise, like we saw coming up in the Joe Garte committee report, where Honorable Ayaga had raised issues about the jurisdiction of the committee to go out of, their scope. So it pretty much needs to be clear-cut, and you stick within that.
I'll give it the committee can make a proposal.
The
committee can even make a proposal back to the minister that, look, on the basis of this, we think that this area, and the minister has the power to expand those things. That's first thing.
But currently, you're speaking to what we have here, which is...
Secondly, in terms of as to whether legal representative, in terms of somebody with a legal education, the ministry can, in itself, attach.
The man is still behaving as if he's a spokesman for the ministry.
No, I'm not defending the ministry, but I'm just the ministry itself could attach.
Your old job.
Can attach trained maybe a lawyer or something to them, not necessarily as a member of the committee, but just to offer them the legal advice where I can. I don't have a problem with this. It's just that the very logic that people are relying on to say NPA should not be there should be the same logic that BOSS should not be there. I say BOSS, what's it name? BDC. No, BDC. Should not be. It's the same logic.
So let me ask a question.
Yes, carry on.
It has been alleged, and it's an allegation that we have all read on social media, that my old friend, Senor.
No, don't bring it.
Why shouldn't I bring it in?
Would
it cover
because
he's not
here?
Don't repeat defamation.
Exactly. Mr. Gentleman, let's just keep that down.
I'm just making a point that I have read and see whether it will be part and parcel of.
No, that doesn't capture anything. But let's move on. See,
it's not part of what BOSS has done. So to me, it's a different thing. To me,
but it's got to do with the product.
Ghana is the only country.
It's got to do with the product.
Will go on air, make such an allegation, and the national security does not invite that person for further clarification.
And that is why I'm trying to find out whether it's part and parcel
all those things. No, I don't think it should be part.
One person at a time, please. We are talking over each other, please. Mr. Jantua, carry on with your submissions and then I move on to Honorable Obiamwa.
There have been allegations made. There are allegations. I'm not saying Senor has done it. But the allegations...
No, where I was coming in, I beg you, where I was coming in was the fact that if it involves the BDCs or OMCs in general, or the name Senor was mentioned regarding his official position in this whole matter, then you can question their membership of the board. That is where I want to come in. What we are bringing...
Somebody standing aside will say, this is what they've said. Why is the BDCs in there?
No, that's the point that has been brought out all along, was that the Senor that has been mentioned,
yes,
is he being mentioned in his personal capacity?
Yes.
Or
Or is being mentioned as CEO of
the chamber.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I want
if
to
it's the conduct of the chamber, then you will question their membership here.
Yes.
Because then somebody is alleging that they also
Yes,
not ought to
yes,
be
yes.
part of or sit on their own course.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
That is all that I want
Well,
to establish.
Yes, but no, I'll take some messages. But
the
please
other
let's
point-
think about, you know, for me, this Section 11 issue is really worrisome to me. That we seem to be saying that there's a certain group of people or entities that can do business in the downstream sector without licenses.
It's
It's
only Bawa who doesn't agree.
yes, but anyways, let me read some messages.
When they are no license. How can
Let
they
me
do that?
read
No,
some.
he's saying that you guys get certificate.
But the union takes a certificate.
No, gentlemen, please, I'm reading
it's a
messages.
people
I'm
for
bringing
FBI.
in viewers
Then
and
we can
listeners.
review that
Please,
procedure.
exercise some restraints, please. Please, let's have some quiet here. Let's have some quiet here whilst I read some messages,
Maybe
please.
Alasa, if Alasa is watching, he can also...
I'm taking some messages. This one is Dennis Boachi Yadam. He says, BOST as an institution should be investigated since its time of inception. This is a calculated plot by them to siphon money. And this one, Nee from Amprobe is asking Abna, so why did you, he says, please how to, okay. Hello, there are too many excuses in this country. My car started smoking about 5 weeks ago and it's a fuel issue. Consumers are being defrauded and the NPA are not doing their checks in filling stations. There could be a class action lawsuit against BOST and NPA for damaged cars. Does the government want a civil revolution? Just consumers are tired. Let me take this last one, then we go back to Mr. Jose on the line. Abnatel Edward Bauer to take his time and copy users what's notes from Honorable Obiamwa. Okay. Let me put a break on here and then go back to, I think Mr. Senor, once he has this platform, wants to speak to the issue that is going on the social media about the alleged bribery, whatever. So he wants to speak. Mr. Jose?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, so carry on, yes.
Okay, Mr. Jantua, I would not sit on that committee, very clearly. And I think that I've made that known to the minister in my person. And the constitution in there is not about, about me, a representative from the chamber. So the board will take a decision on who should be there. I've commented on the matter in some sense, so there will definitely be some sense of prejudice. So I don't think that I'm qualified to actually sit on the committee. Now the next thing, the terms of reference. If you listen to the minister, he said not limited, including but not limited to. Yeah. So that possibly could be expanded at his own call or at government's own call or whatever, the committee's own recommendation. So that's another thing. And the lawyer bit, we asked him. He indicated that they were going to co-opt lawyers from the ministry or from the Attorney General to augment the committee. So I think that part is also covered, just for information's sake. On your allegation, yes, I mean, I had allegations by Ken, and as you are aware, I've already taken steps asking him to retract it, or I definitely have to sue. But common sense, it doesn't add up. If you are selling something for 6.5 million cedis, why should I give you a bribe of 4.5 million? How much am I going to pay for the product itself? Then that means the product must be very, very profitable. Secondly, Mr. Johnson, you know I don't sell petrol. I've never sold petrol. I don't buy petrol. I'm not licensed to sell or buy petrol. How am I going to engage in any discussion about me buying contaminated, products? It's neither here nor there. Do we have a situation where contaminated products, off-spec products have hit this market? Yes, we do. Where have they come from? We don't know. We have smuggled products into this town, so people complaining about their cars, somewhat, it's legitimate. There's smuggling happening every day.
Right.
When smuggling happens, the authorities may be able to ascertain the quality of the product that comes in. Is it a result of the boss situation? We need to do the further step to actually tell whether we have it or not.
Right, sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
you
Mr.
for
Senyo
clarifying.
Hosi. We do appreciate your interventions and your contributions. Do have a good day. Great. So that was Mr. Senyo Hosi, the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Back. This is New Day Saturday edition. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and on our Facebook page at TV3 News. We're also streaming live on GhanaWeb.com. We will be wrapping up on the bust issue here. I'll go back to the panel quickly, but I'll take some messages first and then we wrap up on that. This one says the boss of Bust should be held responsible because he's aware of all the day-to-day activities of the management, and that's Dankwa in the Western region. Please, the NPP should stop comparing issues in the previous government to justify their, he says, arrogance, pride, and hypocrisy, because they made us aware that the previous government was incompetent and corrupt. And this is Victor in Bolgatanga. Evans Osei in Mankasim says, I expect the minority in Parliament to be circumspect in their critique regarding both the contaminated fuel issue and the negotiated China deal for Ghana. Ghana will work again under Nana Bawumia government. Welcome to Ghana, my country, where wrong is used to equalize wrong. How can Ghana develop with this kind of people in place? This is a time for our president to show that he is ready to fight corruption. Enough of the talk, put words into action, Mr. President. That's Steve from Kintampo. Justin in Chuchulika says, it has now become normal for government appointees to use their offices for their own selfish interest, as in the case of Bust. Stop comparing NPP to NDC because it's your time to correct what you think NDC did wrong. The NPP should stop the noise and work. Now we'll wrap up here with forward-looking issues. Moving forward, what is it? Definitely the committees in place. I'll start from you, Honorable.
Yes, I think this, what has happened should be beneficial to the nation, in the sense that if we were all taking things for granted, if the assumption was that anything could go as far as some of these procurement practices and other legal issues were concerned, now they've come to the fore. And it's our hope that after the committee has submitted its report, everything that has to be implemented will be implemented. And then going forward, whoever is running a state-owned enterprise, not only Boss, and not only the oil industry, but in every other sector, will know that there are certain things that you need to do. For instance, in this whole Boss matter, even by procurement standards, if you have items in store and you have no use of the items, you cannot just call Mr. A and say, I've disposed of it. There should be a board of survey, which should then decide that this is how we go about it. And to apply to the residue and all the other things that we are talking about. So I think that at the end of the day, we should just make sure that as for the laws and regulations, we have them.
Just the enforcement. Just
the enforcement and then awareness that you cannot just do what you want. So it's open up. But the other aspect too is that we have heard, Yoko has not denied it, that they are investigating Bust. We should be sure that we can bring all this together so that we are not at cross purposes, or one act will not end up defeating the purpose of what the other group is doing.
Very well. Great. Sure. Mr. Kuchopoku.
Right.
In the circumstance where we have, I mean, Mr. Obiamo has raised procurement issues here. Clearly, this is at the forefront, and we're looking at a situation where we have a minister designate for procurement. You would expect that such things would not be occurring.
Right. So that is why, to me, the equalization of what happened in the past and what's happening now, where an MD was able to sell to individual companies without proper recourse, would not be the case now, because, well, it was okay in that administration. In this administration, they have come out to say that, look, every sale would have to be true, competitive, and transparency. So we expect that people appointed under this administration will do that. The MPA issue that was discussed earlier, and I think where MPA being on the committee will be able to tell the committee why they are supposed to do periodic checks of all the product in the tanks of Bost. If within the last 5 months they did their checks and they were aware that those contaminated tanks, fuel was in the tanks, what monitoring did they do? Because obviously they are supposed to do it they don't do it as often, because their point is that they don't want to go in and keep disrupting the work of Bost.
Then they should appear before the committee.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, they do regular checks, but it's not as, you understand?
But what are they mandated to do?
They are supposed to go there periodically.
And do they do that?
And they do. But what I'm saying is, I asked that, how often do they do it? And they said, look, we don't want to go there like every other day, show up to disrupt their work. So they do that periodically to check Bost times to see that the product there are up to specification. But my point is, it's been 5 months when this product sat there. Did they do those checks within that period? And did they find out that product? And what was, because there's this issue whereby people are saying that, MP is saying that they were not informed. But if we were not informed, if you were going there to do your checks, you would have found out that that product was sitting in their tanks.
Right.
So going forward, I think the procurement processes are Bost. And what some of us also want to find out is that, what is causing this rampant occurrence of contamination? Is this something that is intentional, or is it something that is accidental truly? So those are some of the issues that and I think the two political parties should hold fire and let the investigation take its course.
Very well. Honorable Bawa, then I go to
I think that going forward,
yes, on purpose.
Going forward, I think the committee's work would clearly set out certain things. The procedures that we use within the industry, the allegations that have been made, if it is true, how do you make sure that you prevent it in the future? And then all the necessary punitive actions being done.
Right.
That being said, I also want to indicate, and that goes on the heels of what Honorable Obiamo said. I think that I have no problem, and I have no qualms with Yoko, BNI, even FBI, investigating the activities of previous administrations. They can do that. But we need now, what we are doing is, and this investigation, my understanding from what he has said, it has been ongoing. So there's no challenge about that. The current challenge is...
It's not previous. I didn't say previous administration.
No, I'm just saying, yes.
Honorable, please,
whatever,
finish for me, yes.
Yeah, whatever the case is. There's a specific issue that we are dealing with now, and I think it is that specific issue that the minister wants to address. So, yes, we can do that. These two things can go on independent of each other, and I don't have a problem at all with it.
Okay.
So that's
great.
The way we should go.
Briefly, Mr. Gentleman, and then we move on to Parliament.
Oh, I should be brief.
No, I mean,
okay, I'll try and be brief. Since you escaped me, I'll try and be brief. I think for me, Abna, the major challenge is the gantry. If we do not want this to happen again, we should look at the gantry. We should look at the processes in which we download petroleum products from the vessel. If we can find money to build a different one for diesel, a different one for petrol,
it's not necessary.
Then
it's not necessary.
I mean,
if not, then we need to make sure that we do the right thing.
Then we need to make sure that those there are practicing real attention to detail.
Right, that's more easy.
When you really, it could be easier. However, if it's in future going to cause a huge loss to us, then we should weigh between the two
and see what is more beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Which one would be better? Because if we can solve it once and for all, look, when we discovered oil, some of us were saying that instead of buying an FPSO, let's pump it onshore because it will create quite a lot of business for people. People will be able to identify what is happening and not go into FPSO. The thing that the government of the day said that we don't have the money to do it. However, we had money to pipe gas from the FPSO onshore. So why couldn't we have done that? And right now, we are spending huge amounts of money in building FPSOs all around. And so I'm saying, if that is going to cure the problem once and for all, let's do it. Let's look at the opportunity cost and let's do it.
Sure.
However, if it's not going to be possible, then let's make sure that attention to detail is done. However, I'm very happy with the committee. I think that this is a very technical area. You need technical people to be able to understand what the terms of reference is for them to be able to do the right job. And once that comes out, anybody who is found culpable whether they're in MPP, whether they're in MBC, whether they're in CDD, they should be made to face the tune. Finally, I would hope that when these situations come up, both parties in parliament, or whichever parties in parliament, this goes to the heart of the Ghanaian. Let's be seen to be talking with one breath so that we can all come to a conclusion that would help us move forward and not move 3 steps backwards. I understand there's a dance in the north called the Bulsa dance. You take 6 steps forward and 7 steps backward. We don't want that kind of thing. Well, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
But that's fine, we're moving on.
We've ended this.
Yes, we've ended it.
The idea that it's only people in the public service who are experts and technical people. I don't think we
no, but that's not,
Yes, no. The fact that MPA is on it doesn't mean it's only those in MPA who have the technical knowledge.
No,
that's number one.
No, that is not the point I'm making.
I still feel strongly that it will serve us better if MPA appears before the committee than to be part of the committee.
Part of it. Well, that conversation can go on beyond this point.
Well, I'm sure we didn't
but we need to move on. We've spent 2 good hours on this topic. It's important though, but we need to move on to touch on other issues as well. So we are going straight into the House of Parliament, the August House, which seems to be having a difficult challenge with scandals, one after the other. So this time, we have this.
Parliament is in the news again.
For the wrong reasons.
Bad news sell. But what came out and what I've heard as bribery, with all due respect, is not.
Okay, so let me ask this question. We are told, Mr. Honorable James Aveji has admitted that the Finance Subcommittee under the previous Parliament took 100,000 Ghana cedis from the NLE to, using his words, to facilitate that, whatever it is. So the question is, should the committee have been facilitated? That's the question. Should the committee have been facilitated?
Let me tell you what happens. It's a practice. The practice may be bad, the practice may be questioned. But it's a practice. There's a practice that has been going on for some time for various reasons. One,
what's the practice?
Yes, I'm coming to tell you that. One, committees are set up, and these committees have their various functions and rules. For instance, if it's a bill will be referred to the relevant committee to bring a report on the bill after first reading. It comes for second reading, we debate the policy, then we go to consideration. Consideration is where we want to look at the whole document. And then the final thing, we do third reading, is passed. Now, at the committee level, it's more or less like consultation. It's part of more or less, sometimes even before the bill comes to Parliament, there's stakeholders consultation, and Parliament is involved. And after the bill has come to Parliament and is referred to the committee, there's more consultation. Now, without zooming on this specific one, because I even asked the Aveji that, what did you really say? I thought when it comes to these things, it's the clerks and the staff who manage this. But you as chairman, how is it really true that you were holding money? Because what happens is that, assuming a committee is approached that we want you to help us bring this bill together, but we are ready to organize for you to meet at Kofodia. What you then know is that you've been invited for a committee sitting on this matter outside Accra. So you go, you prepare and go. Where you stay is being catered for. What you eat is being catered for. Sometimes you go, they tell you your drivers are not part of the package. If you're spending 3 days there, going through the document, no matter how big it is, when you finish, you're about to leave, they bring you a form, sign and take this for coming.
Per diem.
Yeah. And so if you divide 100,000 amongst 25 people, are you going to tell me that whatever each person earned, he was bribed for him to be able to pass the bill with that 2,000 or 3,000?
Well, we can't tell for sure.
You understand? If sometimes probably we should invite media to come and sit in some of these committees, and you will see that the kind of work they do, ideally, ideally, it is Parliament who should be funding all this.
Good. Let me probe a bit further.
Yes.
You in your earlier, when you were speaking earlier, you said whether good or bad, there is a practice. I'm asking, is it a good practice?
That's what I'm saying. Ideally,
Ideally, there shouldn't be.
Parliament should be funding all this.
Right.
But people even forget that the sponsoring institution also bring people and give them the same thing. So are they bribing themselves?
But they are not public officials.
They are.
The others who come. The funding institution. You're talking about
sponsoring institutions.
Right.
For
This is
instance,
coming from the
National
state
Lottery.
agency. Yes. I do
You
get that.
understand?
Right.
All these agencies, it's either regulations or laws, and they involve Parliament, and they involve them sometimes their own experts and their own staff.
But they are not the ones required to pass the law. So they definitely, whatever there's an influence at any point, they would not have anything on that. So those could be dealt with separately.
Bribery is a entirely different thing. The practice is, why would we want agencies to spend this kind of money on MPs in helping them to fashion their law, when we also think that it's part of the MPs' work? We should be able to.
Those are the issues. Yes.
And then why is Parliament not releasing money for these activities?
Right. So those are the real issues.
Where for a whole year, not a CDB released that committee, and the committee wants to operate. So they start moving around. They say, "Oh, this institution wants to hold stakeholder. We are moving." They go there. They are giving some money. That is not bribery. So if we have to streamline these things, we need to streamline them. But when you jump to that level, and all the civil society organizations, investigate them, this is bribery. They took money before passing the law. You are saying something entirely different. Something entirely different. I have chaired a major committee that's chaired legislation for 4 years. And that is what was going on.
Great.
Sometimes we even complain that why should we always go outside Accra? But sometimes you even have to go outside Accra to justify your mileage.
Right. Now, let me come to
just one minute.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. Quickly, the Honourable Bao, who is also in Parliament.
Is it possible?
Yes.
Is it by any sense of imagination, is it possible that monies have ever been paid before going for a workshop? Is it possible?
No. Officially, no.
Officially, no.
Unofficially, if an individual has been approached and given money, I cannot tell. But
So
officially,
maybe that's why.
So you say it could never have happened in Parliament?
I'm saying officially no, but how can I know what people do?
You wouldn't know. So
The
perhaps that's
practice
why
is,
the investigation into the
But I'm
matter
saying that
is
the normal
required.
thing is after
You see, Abna,
your
this
period-
investigation thing that they are talking about, like my brother is saying, you see, I said this on Wednesday that, look, if agencies giving money to committee to sit is not the norm, then it's a problem. The reason being that it's been ongoing for a very long time.
Right.
It's just that the public or the special interest groups who are not coming out and shouting bribery do not know the practices of what happens. It's something that happens all the time.
But shouldn't happen.
Well, it shouldn't happen if they have the money to say, look, you need a bill passed. Parliament does not have the money to give to the committee to sit on it. So if you are an agency and you have the budget for it, you can facilitate the meeting, because you see what needs for the bill. The right of information bill, okay, has been sitting there for God knows and it wasn't passed. If the right agency feels that, look, we need this thing urgently, they organize their committee members and say, look, can we take you to Royal Senchi or take you to Ada this weekend and work on this bill for us, because it's something we need immediately. Then you have to now take care of their fuel to the place, their accommodation, and when you take the big men there, when they are coming, you give them item 13.
Which is what raises the issue
it's not
about
a bribe.
No, but which is what raises the issue. Just a minute, Honourable Bao, let me land. Which is what raises the issue about the kind of, legislation or laws we are pursuing then, and the kinds of influence that are behind it. Because if it's funded, then perhaps you're driving a certain agenda.
No,
whoever is funding it. It raises legitimate questions.
Then
Mr. Honourable Bao will come in.
Yes, let me answer you.
A few seconds, yes.
The committee I was chairing, if people will be sincere about, you can't say absolute, but about 99% will tell you that such consultations are very useful.
Oh, yes.
Such what?
Consultations. Yes. Because when they come to meet people that they didn't know were experts. The way we scrutinize their documents before it comes before us. And even for regulations, the other aspect of it is that the moment it's laid, you cannot touch it. You cannot amend.
Yes.
So we have to spend all the time cleaning it.
That one I agree.
And saying that go back and do it and bring it before it's laid. Otherwise, when it's laid, it will be rejected. That one is not bribery. Sometimes what I even say is that this is consultancy, but you are not paying us.
Right, consultancy as a public official.
It's part of our work.
Right, Honorable Bawa.
Which one?
This national lottery thing. It was not even passed.
I'm not
Yes,
aware.
it
There was an amendment to the existing act.
It wasn't. They couldn't do it.
But
within the rules.
Honorable Bawa, you are also in Parliament, and I mean, from the conversation here, Mr. Honorable Obiamwa says ideally that shouldn't be the case. So it looks as if we are trying to make things work, making lemonade out of lemons, even though it's not the best situation. So some have called for, well, I mean, it depends on who is interpreting it, but some have called for, well, then maybe it's about time we institutionalized lobbying as we have elsewhere. Yeah. What do you say to that? So that then it's not?
You see, I think that Honorable Obiamwa identified the problem. It's an issue of funding to Parliament.
So that if Parliament is funded, this will stop. And will Parliament ever have that adequate funding?
And that's the point I'm just going to make. Even if you look at our history, to a very large extent, the three arms of government, Parliament is the body that has suffered most. Because in all military regimes, you have still the judiciary in place, you have the executive in place. So people have, to a very large extent, have come to understand the workings of these two institutions. But Parliament is a bit new.
But since 1992,
yeah, but since 1992, it's still the same as since independence. So the point I'm making is that all in all, people have a limited insight into the workings of Parliament. That's the first aspect. And so you can have some of these things coming up. Two, the issue has to do with what resources are available for Parliament to work. Parliament can get up. You see, it is better to say that, oh, you want to pass a law, but if you pass a very bad law, it is also very inimical to the society. And so
but Parliament, if you want to pass a law that has been influenced by certain actors,
yeah, but the question,
that is also equally
even
bad.
with the case that we're talking about, and that's why I was trying to cross-check with Honorable Obiamwa, that law was not even passed. So if it was bribery, the intention was to have a particular result.
As in it's been sent back, not at all to be considered?
Because until before the last Parliament rules ended, they didn't pass it.
And it won't come before the Parliament again?
No, that is...
Exactly, so there could be another round of 100,000 for you to look at again.
But the composition of even the committee may not even be the same. Again, you understand?
Another round of 100,000.
But see, I think that we may want to, if we really want to have Parliament work and work properly, we may have to sit down and look again at how we fund Parliament. Yes, for somebody sitting outside, and I can tell you the truth, just until 7th January, anytime I heard stories like this, I said, what is this? But when you now enter in and you see the workings of Parliament and what goes on, you have those things. Particularly, there are certain laws that come, for bills that come before Parliament, and the interest groups are so huge, particularly in the petroleum industry, that you have IOCs, that's international oil companies, trying to influence portions of the bill. And Parliament, in all things, in as much as they will always want to pass laws that will make everybody, create a fair environment for everybody, Parliament has also a supreme interest to ensure that the interest of the government, the state is protected. And so you realize that Parliament will go on a lot of consultations, maybe GAPC, Petroleum Commission, what have you.
But all funded by externals.
Yeah, because Parliament itself has no resources. And that's the example that he gave. That, look, you have a whole committee there for almost 6 months, 1 year, and they have not had even a single release. So if you don't have that, then all you do is that you just sit there and just say, we are not working, why? We don't have money. Is that what we want? And because the state institutions know that you are handicapped in things like this, if they decide to take you from here, they help that, okay.
make provision for it in their budget.
Yes. Apparently. To be able to aid you to be able to do this, to be able to do the work. And let's not look at it, because for me, and Honorable Obi is a lawyer, what really constitutes a bribe? Does it have an intention of influence? Because if the intention is to influence your behavior, then that's a different thing.
Bring the bill and so everything's okay.
Okay, take it and
pass it. But at the time,
you scrutinize it.
Leave the place, you may have changed everything.
You look at you take this particular the EMP law that was it was in Parliament for God knows how many years.
Go come.
And meanwhile, there were a lot of workshops, a lot of things that were done. And you can't say that in the basis of these workshops, they didn't need to provide logistics for the workshop. But at the same time, Parliament always ensured that if there were problems, they took it back. And for God knows how many, for almost 4 years or thereabout, before the law was passed. So I think that it's a bit of a misunderstanding.
Okay, so will there ever be sufficient funding for Parliament to do its work, so that there'll come a point in time where we wouldn't have this happening, or at any given time would have a need for that?
If we prioritize the activities of Parliament and know that it is very significant in our democratic dispensation, maybe we could make some strides in that area. But you see, there are other competing needs for national development.
Yes,
and
obviously.
you need to also consider all those things.
Right.
Within the
But
limited
it's not a bad thing. Unless
You see,
I think
it's not a bad thing to the extent that maybe you don't have certain influences, but where you have, because it's not all the time that these bills are, brought by state agencies. You have external, like you talked about the IOCs, who would be behind the scenes necessarily maybe pushing a certain agenda. And that's the perception people would have.
These laws come through Attorney General.
Yeah.
These laws does not come, or the ministry. It doesn't come directly from the external companies.
Yeah.
It goes through the ministry, it goes to the executive, Attorney
But at
General.
all stages, at all stages, you expect that there will be those necessary, like those facilitations at all stages.
You see, there are two things we are discussing here. There is because you mentioned lobbying. So you are trying to talk about instances where somebody wants certain things put in there and passed.
Yes.
So he's bringing money for that to happen. It's completely different from what you're talking about.
No, but it also is part of it.
It doesn't have to really happen to a committee.
It's not a committee thing. So the committee thing we are talking about is completely different. And I know this for a fact because I have worked in the ministry some time back, so I know how these things work. The issue is that you have the agencies who need these things done. The workshops they are talking about are organized. Who pays for them? No matter how much money and how much resources you give to Parliament, there are going to be instances where agencies like NLA, who has self-generating funding, might want to help organize workshops for a bill they have presented before Parliament. And let's get this right. It is only bills that has been laid in Parliament that goes for consideration. So it's not that somebody is having a self-seeking interest. That is completely different conversation. But my problem is that we have 24-hour news media. Sensation is the only thing that sells. So when you now say that there is a bribery scandal or 100,000 from NLA to is a bribery, it's more newsworthy than when people explains it. So let's not try to confuse it that somebody wants a certain bill passed and he's paying money. That one can be done regardless.
Am I hearing you say we should now make it formalized now, so it's institutionalized that these funding would go on?
It is
institutionalized formally. So then, but to the extent that people would raise eyebrows anytime we hear it, then it's not that institutionalized.
Because the public do not know. If we educate the public,
so you're informing us now that
if they did, look, Parliament should educate the public that look, these workshops are organized.
And that workshop would be funded by an external agency, definitely.
So, who's an external agency? Who's an external agency? We are talking about private companies. Look, if a private company, like you talk of lobbying, wants MPs to act in a certain way, they will see them privately and give them the money. That's not what.
So that they'll come back their position
on the floor. That is not what we are talking about here. Or even when the workshops are organized, they think in a certain way. That's different. This is where agencies that are self-revenue generating, like NLA or GMPC, fund workshops for MPs to go and deliberate on bills laid in Parliament. It's completely different from people trying to insinuate bribery. That can be done no matter how much money you give to Parliament. But that is not what this is.
So you think the CSO calls for a probe into this is not necessary?
No, because it's not, because it is not a bribe. Because look, when you go to all these companies, they list it, like you rightfully said, it is made in their budget. And it's not, they don't hide it.
People have raised issues about that.
Why?
That why
but
should
it's to help build our institution.
Right. Let me go to Mr. Jantua. Let me hear you on this. You've heard all three.
Abna, last weekend I was in Kofodia with the Standing Committee in Finance, defending our 2016 PIAC report. And it was being funded by one of the most conservative agencies you would ever think of, GIZ. Now, GIZ,
the German,
yes, they hardly pay anything to anybody. However, they paid us some money. What was that money for? Petrol. Being able to move from where you are to there. So they paid you something small. So on that score, I don't see anything wrong with it. However, this issue we are talking about stems from the NLA itself and the confusion it has created. What is the confusion? And permit me to read. There was an email from one of their meetings stating, and if you permit me to quote, this is from David Lamptey to Brigadier General Martin Asiedu-Dartey, retired. I think at the time he was immediate past. And it's copied to Elizabeth Ajekum. And it reads, forward, Amendment Act 722 Supplementary Budget. Dear Sir, good morning. Following directions with the chairperson of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Finance, I respectfully request your approval and authorization for an amount in the sum of 50,000 to push the bill for consideration by Parliament prior to the recess.
To push it. It won't move until you push.
This is where the exact problem
is very unofficial.
This is where the confusion is.
So the influence then. It means it won't move until
what did they mean by push? What do they mean by push? Our bill is there. It's not moving anywhere. We need to go and see. So it is the offerer and the taker. So if they say push, what is it?
That's the level of influence you're looking at.
That is where the confusion has come in.
Influence
that it was a bribe. If this didn't come out,
nobody documents a bribe.
If this didn't come, hang on. This is supposed to be internal. This is supposed to have come out. To push. It didn't come out. We didn't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Was the 50
with
to an individual or to all the members?
Well, it didn't say. It just indicated that, and the operative word there is push. So you go to the committee and say, we need to push this thing. Inverted commas begin and close. Here is something small to push. And that is what has created the whole confusion. But yeah, I have.
But like the MPs have said.
Wait,
yes.
I have
appeared before.
I've appeared before his commission on several times. I'm telling you, it's a good thing. Some of the things when we were doing the bill on the measuring for oil and gas. I mean,
or even local content.
Yes, even local content. And I'll tell you, I did the implementation strategy for the local content policy. I said when we met the IOCs, some of the things they were saying to influence, that they want it their way. It is our law, but they want it their way. And so these things are important. And I do agree. Let's educate the public as to what these things contain. But when you have a situation where an intention, a mens rea has been created, and an actor's rea is there to push.
Yes.
But you see, that needs to be interrogated some more.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it to work on the bill, for instance? The MPs are there, but it would take a certain process for it to get to them. So in that regard, you wouldn't necessarily say that they are not working, but would only work when they are given something.
But Abna, if the board of NLA in their boardroom, they are sitting there wanting more powers, and the law will be able to give them those powers, why should they think of influencing Parliament? It is not their domain. It's up to Parliament in their time to be able to make sure that they pass the bill the time they're supposed to pass it.
And the parliamentarians are raising issues about inadequate resources in Parliament to get the job done.
Well, this is where separation of powers comes into being, in terms of why is it that it's the executive who determine what Parliament gets. A new system should be put in place where Parliament is on its own. I, for one, do not agree with the fact that we take a certain number of ministers from Parliament. We should stop that.
That's constitutional.
Yes. It is a constitutional matter. But there are some of the things that we should look at going into in the 21st century today. How do we fund Parliament? How do we fund the judiciary? How do we fund the executive? How do we do it? Because you find, when you were talking, I didn't take your time. You find that sometimes Parliament would hold back certain things they are supposed to check the executive for, because they know it's the executive who determines.
But that is a whole new ball game.
But
yes.
It's all part and parcel of the gamut of issues that face Parliament. And yes, I do agree. Let's find a way of financing Parliament so that it has nothing to do with any other external party, be it executive or judiciary.
But yes, Honourable, you raised an issue, and Mr. Bauer also confirmed that I mean, there could be a period of 6 months and the committee had not worked on anything. I'm just wondering, so how are we as a state, thinking that Parliament should work in legislating or in carrying out its legislative role?
Yeah, it's in the Constitution, 10411 also. You cannot keep your committee report for more than a certain period. The Constitution provides for it. So you can't say that the bill has been referred to the committee. The committee is supposed to bring the report to Parliament for second review and consideration, and then you say that there's no money, so you are keeping it. You cannot keep it for that.
So what would you do in that circumstance?
But
so what would you do in that circumstance if you've kept it for so long?
No, you're not.
You just send it back.
That's why you are pushed.
Yeah, but the bigger picture.
So pushing goes on in Parliament then.
Right.
Pushing goes on.
The bigger picture is what I heard the Deputy Minister for Finance, Koku Kwati, saying, that the ministry is trying to look at all this holistically and to be able to draw a line, like allowances for board sitting, allowances for such workshops, these things. If they are coming from government coffers, then there should be a certain ceiling and then some transparency so that all of us will accept that this is the situation. Because, of course, you may have a very rich agency who may decide that, oh, every MP is entitled to 4,000 for this workshop. Another agency, they say, oh, we don't have enough. Try and come, we'll give you 1,000 for coming. Sometimes if you are not careful, people will be even more interested in going to, let's say, PIAC workshops than
because they give
so the ministry wants to streamline it and say that if this is what you are going to give, then it should be this
ceiling, right?
Flat, whether rich or poor institution, this is what you are required to pay. Anything in excess is illegal, and then you are doing it under the table, which becomes a problem. That would also address it. The other aspect to it is, I always complain, why am I supposed to travel outside Accra to a hotel for a long period just to consider? Then let's stay in Accra and do it. They will tell you there's so much distraction. People will come in and just come and sign, spend some hours and leave. But when they are taken outside, they are forced to concentrate and do the work. All these things we should look at. If staying in Accra will reduce the cost and will still make us efficient, I'm all for it. You understand? But let's agree to the procedures and the streamlining, and some of these things will not happen. As for the civil society people, it's their business to check corruption. So any hint of it, any smell of it, especially coming at the back of what was supposed to have happened at the appointments committee, the Ayaga issue, some were not happy that Parliament itself investigated this matter. So they said, no, there should be a body to investigate. I think that some of these things we should open up. If at least Shiraj can come in, we should open the books. You said 50,000 for pushing. What did you mean by pushing? And where did the money go? How did you spend it? If it turns out that 25,000 people use the 50,000 as pushing, and 2,000 cedis per person, you could term it as a bribe, or you could provide, or you could show that it influenced them in deciding on the bill, so be it.
Well, yeah, because so far what's coming out is this is a normal practice. It's just people are perhaps misunderstanding the situation because they don't know the workings of Parliament. So yes, perhaps it's about time you have that committee set up, look into it, and then they make their findings known to the public.
PFORE indicated during
time, several allegations.
Indicated that
several allegations.
Some 5,000.
That was different from committee. That was
whatever the case
inside the house passing the bill.
Whatever the case is part and parcel of what we're talking about.
So obviously there needs to be that investigation. Then it brings to closure all these
checks and balances,
misperceptions, as I think has come to the fore here. I mean, clearly, that's what I'm getting from
But
Mr. Honorable Obi Amakojupoku and Honorable Bawa, that it's just a misperception. People are not understanding it.
But that doesn't mean bribery cannot occur.
Exactly. So that's why the committee needs to be set up to look.
There are interest groups. Let's say you want to pass tobacco bill, and then those who produce tobacco and sell, they think that the bill you're going to pass will kill their business.
To them.
You can approach individuals who may find every way to frustrate the whole process. That can happen. And then if it's found out that an individual has taken so much just to frustrate the passage of such a bill, that one you can conclude that it's bribery.
Right.
But not when a chairman says that this is the funding for a workshop, and then my only worry, that's why I questioned the chairman just this past days. I said, I heard you saying this, but is that a practice? Is that what you do? Because me as committee chairman, I never handled any money. It's a clerk who should see to our accommodation, our meals.
So even in the normal sense, this one seems to be out of the norm.
But I don't know whether...
Which perhaps requires that investigation. But anyway,
I didn't hear him.
Sure.
But all that I heard was that he said he has admitted he took 100,000.
The finance committee took 100,000.
It's for the whole committee. And he cannot say that.
I believe that Honorable, the chairman of the Honorable Aveji would not make a categorical statement that took X amount of money if it was not meant for the committee. That's the first point. The second thing is that the wording of this particular letter by the said lawyer could be a bit problematic. Yes. Maybe the import of what he wanted to carry can be missed.
We went in the boardroom, and we don't know the intention. We went in the boardroom.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. That's why I say the wording is a bit problematic.
It's subject to many interpretations.
You understand? But I'm told that NLA itself was also challenging this email that is going.
So hopefully a committee set up would bring to everything.
But at least there has been an admission
independent
per the news that we are having. There has been an admission that there was movement of resources.
Parliament to make money.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I'm saying
but anyways, I think we can wrap up on this and move on to the...
So I think that for me, there's no need to have a committee on this. There has been an admission that, look, there was some amount that was brought
to us. But as to whether it was bribe or not is the question. Because you are saying it's not. But
whether it was pushing our committees.
Bribe is the media that's using that.
2,000
Yes, I mean, is the media using the word bribe?
No, but it's come from the email.
No, but push doesn't mean
it's come from the email.
Anyways, let's move on.
Push doesn't mean bribe.
Gentlemen, let's move on to look at the Chinese.
I know that it's okay.
Financing scheme. I don't know whether to call it a loan or whatever, but
that one too is not a loan.
It's
the media calling it a loan.
Very well. So this is the situation. The VIP came back from his trip to China and made known that yes, China is committed to, contributing to Ghana's socio-economic and in infrastructure development and all. Now, Mr. Kojopoku, you are saying that this is not a loan. Yes. I mean, so far that's the debate.
You see,
the minority says, I mean, this whole thing about a new financing scheme is really nothing. It's the same old borrowing. So let's not, try to distinguish. So tell us, what is it?
The vice president came back, and at their arrival, he made a press statement. Now, when he made a press statement, he never used the word loan. It was the media reportage that started using the word loan. Now, the vice president went with a package. These are the things that my government wants to do. X, Y, Z. The Chinese are like, oh, we want to partner you to now undertake all the projects you want to do. The ballpark figure is about this amount. Let's call it 15 billion, and we are prepared to support you. Okay, and an MOU is signed. If you look at it, there's even a 2 billion between a development bank in China and AGI, which was signed. So there were multifacets of that agreement. It is now up to the government to now go back individually on each project to discuss with the Chinese government. Now, obviously, political capital. The MPP might want to shout that we've been able to achieve something, which that achievement I don't know. And I don't think that is what the vice president meant Because he even said that this is not the traditional loan agreement. It is where you are leveraging on some resources to get funded. So clearly,
and the question is, I think that the thing that has come up quite a lot is, would it or would it not increase our debt stock?
No.
The minority insists that it would. The majority is saying it wouldn't.
This is it.
And that's where they seek to distinguish between the old school and the new school.
From what I have heard, this government will only borrow for social infrastructure projects. Projects that can pay for itself. Look, if you've had discussions on the rail line, if you had discussions on energy projects, they are all on the line of BOT. They are all on the line of PPP, private-public partnership, where they want the project to be self-financing. If you go and borrow $15 billion, it will throw everything this country stands for into the sky. It's not possible. I'll be very surprised on His Excellency Bawumia, who shouted debt to GDP, will borrow. He knows better. Maybe out of the 15 billion, highest amount I think government will take for infrastructure project where GOG will give a guarantee, probably be about between 1 billion and 2 billion. Because there's only so much space within that you can use. So it's not really about how much you think that the 15 billion is coming to. You would only plug that into your debt.
But at the end of the day, $15 billion will be coming into the economy, isn't it?
No, $15 billion is not coming into the country.
So what is that?
We don't know. Look, what they did was that they went and told the Chinese the various things they want to do. The Chinese are saying, if you want to do these things, I will support you with 15 billion to finance it. Look, those monies, like the 3 billion that was happening in 2009, might never come. Only under 780 million came for Ghana Gas. My problem with politicians, and I have two prominent ones next to me, we should try and look at the basic of the problems that we have in the country. The US Exim are no longer lending to Ghana businesses. Why? Because we are not able to repay the monies we take. The fundamentals are wrong, and that is why the MPP wants to check the fundamental fiscal policy of the country to make sure that we are on good footing, so monies that are brought in, businessmen can pay. What the government is trying to do, from what I have been told, is to leverage on private businesses to partner Chinese businesses to bring in this investment. Ghana government is not going to give a sovereign guarantee for these 15 billion. And unless a sovereign guarantee is given, it's not a GOG debt.
Right, let me move on to Honorable Obiamwa. Perhaps you will tell us exactly what this is.
well, he said it all. So there's the technical side of it. As he said, Dr. Bawumia led a large delegation. There were so many private persons who paid for their trip and then engaged in very fruitful discussions with their counterparts in China. When Dr. Bawumia arrived, he made it clear that this is what we've gone to do and this is what we are expecting. Unfortunately, before the ink could even dry on paper, we had comments from all angles. Oh, it's not happening. Oh, it's 419. Oh, the man said we could use resources from Ghana. Only 6 months he's going for 15 billion loan. I was scandalized. I was surprised that, fine, you can make your initial comments. But for your comments to be useful, first you have to even study what is on the table. Because we have that habit. I sit in Parliament. The moment you walk out, you have mics in front of you. What do you think about this? What do you do that? If I'm not well informed, I just plead and walk away. But there are some, the moment the mic is there, he has to make a comment whether he's well informed or not. And sometimes it doesn't help. Because even me in government, if I say that I have studied the documents that they sent to China, I would not be telling the truth.
Sure.
I only have highlights.
Great, but
points that
this thing about
the
vice president has mentioned a figure, but we are being told that no, that amount is not what we are going to be getting eventually. It's a bit confusing here.
No. One, initially we heard that over 2 billion was dedicated to one district.
Right. Out of the 15 billion.
No, we hadn't even heard of the 15 billion. When they were there, we heard that the Chinese government and corporate bodies had committed themselves to this venture. in a sense that if they're able to help finance it, even the exports will generate enough to pay for what they have put in. We heard that the first thing. Then we heard the other aspect where the government itself, Chinese government, was ready to put in almost 10 billion for the railway sector. They've done that in Kenya. And some of us were even saying that what they did in Kenya, we can even up it. We can have higher specs than the railway project in Kenya. That's one aspect of it. Then we had the other aspect about in bauxite. How do they come into leverage on our bauxite or iron ore deposits? So all those are aspects. And indeed, we were even being told that some aspects will be grants, so that we may even exceed the 15 billion that we're talking about. But it's not going cap in hand and saying that I'm coming to borrow 15 billion. These are the terms. That is not what has been said.
Yes, but at the end of the day, it's still, even if it's a barter situation, you're given something for something.
Certainly.
And what is that thing we are getting in return? That's what it is.
What are you getting in return? That people are coming to
the
invest.
The value of it.
Fine, we can interrogate all those things. There are some that you cannot even bypass Parliament. There are some that you have to bring into Parliament for it to scrutinize. But we shouldn't create the impression that the 50 or so private people went there and said that they had managed to structure their own arrangements, and that money will be sent through banks in Ghana here for these private people to access these things. We should not say that it's just something in the sky that nobody, a pie in the sky that nobody can even explain. That's why I'm saying that why we should go on interrogating it, but people should not just jump into things when they haven't really understood already.
But is it that people are jumping into it, or perhaps the information is so scanty that they are unable to, you know?
But the man arrives at the airport, he briefs the media. The following morning, you rubbish everything. How would you say
was it rubbishing or raising issues?
Because you have made a statement.
Yes.
Raising
critical issues.
Going to borrow 15 billion to destroy the economy. He never said that. He never said that. So where did you get that impression for you to also make categorical statements that the economy will be destroyed because you are borrowing 15 billion?
Because according to them, if you take on that 15 billion, it raises the debt to GDP ratio, which it's already a difficulty for us.
You say it's a debt.
It's going way beyond 100%. I mean.
No, but he has said it all. And I'm reiterating that it's not a loan or debt for you to incur, for you to say that it's raising our GDP.
Or our debt stock.
Our debt stock.
Very well. Honorable Bawa.
Okay, thank you very much. Personally, the day I heard that His Excellency the President had come and said that China was...
The Vice President.
His Excellency the Vice President, had come and indicated that China was ready to give us 15 billion, others were even saying 19 billion.
And there's actually 21 out there as well, apparently.
I asked myself, what was the size of our economy? The size of our economy is roughly around 40 billion. So going to get half the size of our economy in itself was dangerous.
Over which period?
No, be patient. Then you had people from Ministry of Finance coming on the following day and not being sure exactly what the deals were. Then you had this, they had, is it a special, I'm not too sure, economic advisor to the Vice President, now also coming out to give some clarity to what his boss had said. That being said, let's look at the details of what they have. You remember that in 2010, when His Excellency the former President Mills went to China, there was this same, based on a number of MOUs, 16 billion was pledged, if you remember. And after this 16 billion, after all the various calculations came down, that Ghana decided that we're going to settle for some $3 billion loan. And basically it was meant for infrastructure. The oil and gas infrastructure, you had schools and other things. And most of these projects were supposed to be, and that's why we termed as smart borrowing, were supposed to pay for themselves. Then we got the first billion that was released. Then in 2011, CDB, the Chinese came back and wanted to vary the terms of the arrangement, particularly hinging on our mineral deposits as a basis. That's what they call the leveraging. Leveraging, that's been the new term in town. Then the Atamil's government said no, they were not going to settle for that. Particularly at that time, we already started seeing the price of metals going down. And therefore, at that same point, if you were going to leverage on that, you were not going to be at the advantageous point. Then in 2013, President John Mahama also goes to pursue the unlocking of the 2 billion outstanding. The same conditions were given. President John Mahama refused on those terms. Then in 2017 we come, and one of the, if you listen to the narrative that is out there, the narrative suggests that they have been able to unlock the 2 billion that was frozen. Am I right?
Yes.
And the 2 billion that was frozen is also still on the back of the what do you call it? The mineral resources that we have. It is on the basis of that, for example, an organization like Asiedu-Dartey kicked against, as part of their initial process, said that, look, at this particular time, Ghana does not stand to benefit because of the performance of the metals in the commodity market. So we don't stand to benefit in this deal. People say whether it's a loan or not a loan. If I want to...
Have you checked whether it's the same conditions that we took there to unlock, as you put it, what was outstanding? You said if Professor Mills went, he couldn't make it.
They got the 1 billion, but subsequently
the conditions,
and then now
we did not accept the conditions.
The same with President Mahama.
Yes.
So have you looked at what we sent for you to conclude that?
No, I'm just telling. I'm just telling you that. I'm just telling you, and I'm just telling you that based on what is it Dr. Gideon something?
Technical advisor to the vice president.
From what he had said, particularly on one of the stations, CTFM, where he went in the evening to go and talk about this. He was talking, and that was why he talked about smart borrowing. It was innovative, leveraging on our minerals. It was still the same condition. It was on the basis of that statement was issued by Asiedu-Dartey. That look, we still are not in the position to use this as a basis to unlock this one. This is typical. The CDB loan is a loan. It is not anything. You can call it whatever you want. It's a loan. It adds up to our debt stock, just like the 1 billion was added up to our debt stock. So anybody who wants to twist it and say this is not a loan, it won't wash.
You mean the 2 billion or the 15 billion?
No, the 2 billion is part of the 15 billion. Look at the breakdown.
The 2 billion is not part of the 15. That's what I read in the graphic.
No. So I'm just trying to make a point. I'm building a point. So we are talking about the fact that at least the 2 billion is one. The other one is the 1 billion that is meant for infrastructure, which in this, what you call a smart borrowing, we call this smart borrowing, you try to pay for itself. It is going to add to the desktop. So already, even in this arrangement, even if you take out what the AGI is going to get, if we even take out the part that you are talking about, the JV arrangement for the aluminum and the integrated aluminum industry, you still have, even within this component, a total of 3 billion that you are picking up, which would in itself come. Because I'm yet to look at even in terms of the bauxite issue. What is the position of Ghana? Because if you are talking about it's a JV, in terms of our equity contributions to this, what are we doing? Are we valuing the minerals that we have, the deposit that we are having, and on the basis of that, use that as the equity?
Well, he gives a figure about $460 million.
So if you are using that,
being the worth,
what is the? And again, it goes back to whether it is the right time to do that, particularly looking at the performance of the aluminium industry in particular. The aluminium industry itself is not very profitable now. So that is one area. So
you think we might end up losing out in the full arrangement?
Yes, but
the
interesting part is this, and is the hypocrisy of it that I don't like. And I'm
quickly, please, and then I move on.
Yes, the hypocrisy. One, this was a high-level party man who is now the vice president, who indicated. Look, he had demonstrated his abhorrence to loan.
That thing they don't bring it in
we have to take a break. We have to take a break. Yes.
Okay,
we'll come back. You just have a minute to finish because you've had enough time, and then I move to Mr. Jantua. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly. This is New Day Saturday Edition. Welcome back. This is New Day Saturday Edition. We'll be wrapping up on here very soon, but I'll go to Honorable Bawa, who you have 30 seconds to wrap up. We're almost out of time. Then I go to Mr. Jantua.
So basically, the point I was just trying to make is that we had a vice president who, when he was a candidate, indicated that, look, we had all the money here. And it's true, he made that money in Central Region on the 26th of September 2016. When he said he had worked in the Bank of Ghana and knew that we had money. And suddenly, within the first 6 months, if you look at the Bank of Ghana report that has come out, you've increased the debt stock from 122 billion to 127 billion in 6 months. And you tell us that the method that was used in the previous government. You see, the sincerity to Ghanaians is very key. You don't lie your way into power, and exactly that's what.
Very well. On that note, I move on to Mr. Jantua. Mr. Jantua, what do you make out of this Chinese financing of our projects?
Abna, what we the CPP suffered from past governments was the fact that we were the one leading businesses. Really and truly for me, I think what the current government should do is to make the environment conducive for businesses to go to China and do their own deals. Should open up those areas where we have potential to add value and give the businesses the chance to go out there and negotiate with Chinese companies or whatever company they can get to bring the money. I'll give you a typical example of a company that is trying to get into the renewable energy space. Yes, they have gone, they have looked for a Chinese partner, they've come back and they've gone to the Chinese African Development Fund to source money. And they are going to government to see how conducive or where they can start this project. We need to make the environment more conducive for businesses. The question I then ask, yes, we heard that a lot of business people went with the vice president. Who were these business people? Where did they come from? Did they cut across the spectrum? Or they were business people who had supported the MPP government?
No, so the AGI was there.
I'm just generally saying. I'm talking generally, Obi.
You're just asking critical questions.
I'm just talking generally.
Were they the people who supported the party? That's what he asked.
So for such things, it has to be a cross-section, devoid of party affiliation.
Yeah.
Now, let's drill down to the actual amount. And OB and the MPP are saying that it's not a loan. There is no free lunch anywhere. There's no free lunch anywhere, especially where money is concerned. So they have added the 2 billion CDB money. That was a loan. That was backed by oil. So the others, what will it be backed by? Yesterday, I heard the senior minister talking about bauxite and the fact that the bauxite would not harm the environment.
Because the minority had raised that issue.
We could get the bauxite from another part of the Itiwa forest. Is that the thing we want to hear? For me, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear that, yes, the Chinese want bauxite. So one of the things we've said to them is that, yes, you have money, you can bring money in, but come and set the factory up in Ghana. Let's see the bauxite factory in Ghana, so that we too can add value to the resources here. It's not a question of wholesaling, taking the raw material out. The government has said one of their major things is to create employment. So if we've gone for the money, if you are not prepared to set up the factory here, take your money. Now, apart from that, I would have thought that we would look inside Africa. How do we look inside Africa? We have the AU. We have so many countries in Africa who have natural resources that are whole, having added value to it. The different blocks, I believe, should sit down and say, look, we have the resources in Africa. We can depend on ourselves because whatever money is coming...
How does that happen?
By the leaders...
You have the resources, but you don't have...
The leaders... Are you
liquidity?
Are you telling me that in Africa we can't raise 19 billion? Are you saying?
No, we cannot.
Why can't we? Why can't we?
You don't print money. And you don't have the money to do that.
Do the Chinese print money?
Look.
Kojo, do the Chinese print money? Do the Americans print money?
Americans don't have. You see, they have trillions of money in
their
reserves.
Yes, Mr. Jantua, carry on. We need to wrap up. Actually,
once upon a time, they were in our position. How did they get out of our position? What did they do to get out of our position?
It didn't take overnight, though.
It didn't take overnight.
But
same thing, it would not take overnight. But we have to start from somewhere. We can't always go in with a begging bowl, looking for money X, Y, Z. Yes, it's good to have money come in. But the majority of the money should come from us and nobody else. Well, we can do it.
That would be the ideal situation.
There was a time, it's not a question of an ideal situation where you have the wherewithal in terms of the intellect and sitting down and brainstorming and getting results. You get results.
Right.
It's not a question of going and saying that,
unfortunately,
oh, this country
our time is up.
Oh, you cut me.
Unfortunately.